Hello, everyone. My name is Jill Osborne. I am the president and founder of the Interstitial Cystitis Network. It is Sunday, December 1st, 2019. How the hell is time going by so quickly? I think it's absolutely crazy. It is time for a regularly scheduled IC support group meeting. And so I'm going to just take a moment. Let me just get my computer set up here. It's been one of those mornings where we have a big giant storm here. I wasn't sure if I was going to have power and all that sort of good stuff. Hi, Jessica. So I'm sorry I'm a little bit late, but the power was going off and on and all sorts of crazy stuff. Hello, Jessica. Hello, Katrina. Hi, Jessica. Oh, wait, Jessica again. Wait, two Jessicas? No, one Jessica. Hi, Tamara. Hi, Christina. Hello, YouTube. I see you guys on YouTube too, but you have to say something for me to see who you are. Hi, Debbie. Thank you. I just watched it. Hello, Geraldine. It's very nice to meet you. Welcome to a IC support group meeting. Oh, my goodness. Here, hold on. I got to get this. Now, I don't know about you guys, but, whenever Thanksgiving's a little bit early, it's like I'm not quite ready to get into Christmas. But when Thanksgiving's late and now it's December 1st, it's like, oh, hell yeah, you know what? I enjoy this time of year. So look, I got one of my Christmas shirts on. Got my Christmas earrings on. Let's just enjoy it. So yesterday I went down to, so I'm allergic to Christmas trees. Happened in my 20s. If there's a pine tree in the house, I am a sick woman. And so I've had an artificial tree now for 20 years. And every year, it's like whole strands of lights don't work. And I've got to painstakingly swap them in and out. And this year, I knew ahead of time. I knew ahead of time that I was going to have problems with the lights. So I went down to Home Depot in this giant storm to look at the lights, look at the Christmas trees. And of course, my favorite Christmas tree was $700. It's like, I'm not paying $700 for a Christmas tree that I'm only going to use a month. And so I came back all the more determined to get my Christmas tree working again. And I did. Even though the entire middle section and upper section were black when I first plugged them in, got my little Light Keeper Pro. It worked like a charm. So anyway, I hope that you guys are able to maybe put your Christmas trees up, or if you don't have Christmas trees, that you're able to do something that will kind of help you enjoy this wonderful season. I know that we've got, for many of you, you've got snow, you've got ice. We have snow here in California, although not here at my house. And I know that when we have sudden changes in weather, our symptoms can flare. And so I hope that you're tucked away warm and cozy in your house, that you've got a nice cup of something warm to drink that's bladder friendly. Mine is pumpkin spice herbal tea. And there we go. So for those of you who are new, let me introduce myself. I'm Jill Osborne. I'm the president and founder of the Interstitial Cystitis Network. I am the longest serving IC support group leader in the nation, not in the world. I'm close. I'm close, I do believe, to being the longest serving IC support group leader in the world. But I think Barbara and her husband over in Germany I think we've probably been doing it around the same time. I think that's possible. So I started my first support group 26 years ago here in Northern California. And I started it for a very, very specific reason. I had been diagnosed with IC a year earlier. And I had so my IC, although I have a lot of genetics involved here. Whoops, why my glasses are being all weird. I have a lot of genetics involved where I have IC subtype 5 central sensitization. I'd never had bladder pain until I was in a pool accident. And the pool that I was training in after work every day because I was trying to do triathlons, made a massive mistake with their chemicals. And I swam and swallowed massive levels of acid one day when they bombed the pool. They made a mistake. They did their once a year bomb. They didn't put their warning sign up. They didn't put up the pool close sign up. I would have been blinded if I hadn't been wearing my goggles. About 5 of us swam. That night, I woke up with all the symptoms that we associate with a very, very severe bladder infection. But I had a hunch. So I called the pool the next day and I said, "So, is anything weird going on with the pool yesterday?" And the pool manager goes, "Why?" And I went, "Well, I swam yesterday and he interrupted me and he goes, "You swam yesterday?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Wasn't the close sign up?" I went, "No." He goes, "We bombed the pool yesterday. We bombed the pool yesterday." And ironically, though they admitted that they'd made a mistake, I couldn't sue them because up to that point, we didn't have research proving that what happened to me happened to other people. And that was not released until last year by the Center for Disease Control, when we know that about 5,000 of these chemical injuries happen. So anyway, imagine having a chemical burn in your bladder, and that's exactly what happened to me. I was hamburger from my kidneys down. And of course, I grew up with the myth that you drink cranberry juice. So what was I doing? I was drinking a quart of cranberry juice a day, thinking that that would make me better. And guess what? It made me worse because what I did is I poured acid on the wound every day. So at the end of that year, of that first year, I was barely able to walk. The pain was so severe. It's stunningly severe. I didn't sleep. I laid on my living room floor and just prayed. Finally, I was at the emergency room 2 days in a row, and I had a doctor at the emergency room say to me, he said, "You will forever be a burden on your family. This is your life. You will always live in pain. Get used to it." And that's what woke me up. And I went, wait a second. Wait a second. I have 3 college degrees. I have an award from the White House for my work. I'm going to prove you wrong, you son of a bitch. How dare you say that to me? And I needed that moment. And I almost wonder if he was calculated, if that was calculated, because I left that ER so angry at what he said. I was going to prove them wrong. It's like, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to be a burden on my family. And from that point forward, I dove into the work. I dove into the research. I read everything I could. And then I started my first support group in September of 1993 from my bed, like literally from my freaking bed. Within the first year, we did our first major conference. And one of the things that really interested me about this is, so I have 3 degrees. I've got a degree in chemistry, degree in pharmacology, drug development, and master's degree in psychology. And I was going on for my PhD in psychology when this happened. I was really intrigued by the fact that the people who really needed support couldn't get to the meetings because they were in too much pain. And I knew that because I was bawling my eyes out in the car driving to Petaluma, California, a 20-mile drive, because it hurt me to drive. It hurt me to drive. And so it just kind of dawned on me. It's like, wait a second, how can I bring support to them? How can I bring support to somebody who's homebound? And that's when the internet was getting started. This is long before Facebook. This was America Online, CompuServe. Started the first online support groups on America Online for urology, worked with paraplegics, quadriplegics, prostate patients, cancer patients, IC patients, infection patients, you named it, cancer patients. I spent a year working with them, found a doctoral dissertation at Stanford on how to bring support to somebody who was homebound, and created essentially what became the IC network. And we are very proud that, 26 years later, we have and always been in this 26 years, the top rated website dedicated to IC, according to Harvard Medical School and the University of London, who have done research studies to check the accuracy, reliability, and credibility of all the websites that cover IC. We were in one study rated equivalent to the National Cancer Institute, which is hella proud that I was able to do this out of 3 homes with very, very, very little money. So anyway, God works in mysterious ways. The Lord works in mysterious ways. And I was able to find a job that I loved, which is being a support group leader. I just love doing it. So, for those of you who are new, welcome. We do support group meetings, scheduled support group meetings twice a month, the first and third Sunday at 12:30. However, I also do drop-in meetings. I've been doing a lot of drop-in meetings on Sundays. I did one last Sunday. As a matter of fact, that was really, really fun. And so make sure that you like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, go over to Twitter. You can find me, Icy and Jill, on Twitter. Make sure that you sign up over there so that you can get all of our notices, right? It would be cool if you did, if you did. So, let's see. There are a couple of things that I kind of wanted to talk about. Normally, I do these meetings the very, very specific format. I spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes doing the equivalent of a lecture. And then I do 2 hours taking your questions or more. Sometimes we go 4 hours, just depends on how the day is going. And then we usually do a giveaway. And so we will be doing that today. But I want to start this off by reminding everybody that it is extremely rare that the IC Network ever does a sale because we are a small business and every penny counts. However, we are doing a Black Friday, Small Business Saturday, Cyber Monday sale all the way through Monday, 15% off of everything in our store. All the best books, chair cushions, heating pads, and you know what? Supplements. All of the supplements are on sale through Monday night. The coupon code is BELIEVE, BELIEVE, all capital letters. So if while we're doing this, if we end up talking about a product that you want to try, please just know that everything is on sale and it's our once a year sale. So happy about that. Now, so I was thinking this morning about kind of what I wanted to do today. And if we were doing a real in-person support group meeting, I would have a big whiteboard behind me and we would be taking lots and lots of notes. And technology does not allow me to do that. There's a purpose in doing that. Whenever you attend a support group meeting, you have to understand we have a diverse audience. We've got newly diagnosed patients like Geraldine who are here for support and encouragement and information and comfort. And then we have grizzled veterans who are in need of deeper support, who might be struggling a bit more, who might be, they need to vent. They need to vent. And sometimes their vents are a little scary. So, any good support group leader is really balancing this group. And in my regular support group meetings, newly diagnosed patients always had priority. They always got to ask the first questions because I needed to make sure that they walked out feeling encouraged, feeling hopeful, and having directly useful information that would help them get through the day, right? But if anybody was crying, anybody was suffering, obviously the meeting stopped at that moment. I went over to that person, sat next to them, held their hand, gave them a hug, and did whatever I needed to do to give that person a comfort too. Now, sorry, I'm just moving my computer around a little bit too. Let's see, how do I want to say this? Another thing any good support group leader learns is if you start the meeting with "How are you?" you've doomed the meeting. You have absolutely doomed the meeting. If you ask people to introduce themselves and say, "Hey, how are you doing today?" You will spend the next 2 hours talking about the worst of IC. And we don't want to do that. So what we do instead is we ask people when they introduce themselves, and you're not going to introduce yourself here because there's too many people, but we are going to do one thing for fun. What I would normally have people do is, okay, please say your name and then tell us your favorite IC friendly food or your favorite IC friendly beverage or your best coping strategy, right? or your best pain management strategy, or your favorite doctor. So imagine we have a whiteboard behind us, and as every person gave their favorite, whatever it was, I would write it down. And then I've got newly diagnosed patients who are immediately learning from your wisdom. Because you, my friends, have a hell of a lot of wisdom. And it's so important that we share that. Patients who try to recreate the wheel and do it all on their own are doomed to suffer needlessly when there is good wisdom to be shared among the IC patient community. And that's why meetings like this are useful, is because my goal is to give you, information that empowers you, that makes you strong, that makes you bold, that makes you confident, that will give you ideas to pursue as you seek answers to your anatomical mystery of what is causing your symptoms. Remember, we no longer think of IC as an incurable bladder disease, and we haven't for a couple of years. We think of IC as a pelvic pain injury. And we have variants of that presentation. Not everybody's the same. Some patients have Hunner's lesions, which we now know are triggered by viral infections. Other patients have pelvic floor injuries. For some patients, IC begins in childhood because there's some inheritance involved. For other people, IC begins after menopause. For some people, IC begins after a traumatic accident, a fall on your tailbone, while for others, IC can begin after chemotherapy. If there's one thing we know, is that a one treatment fits all approach does not work, my friends. It does not work. Why? Because of the tremendous diversity in this patient population. And so you are an anatomical mystery to be solved. You need to understand what the hell is going on in your pelvis that is triggering your symptoms. And I say this every time. And guys, if there's one thing I want you to remember from this meeting today is you never, ever, ever walk into a meeting with a new doctor and say you've got IC. Because you will jump down the rabbit hole. You will fall down the rabbit hole. You will nosedive down the rabbit hole of that doctor's belief structure. And ultimately, you need his attention focused, or her attention focused on your unique anatomy. I was working with a patient on was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. I was working with a patient in England. And if you're here, hi. I think she's probably, she might be here. We'll see. And her case was really, really interesting because her symptoms started a couple of years ago, just almost totally out of the blue, no history of any bladder issues at all. And she was getting mixed messages from doctors. Of course, medical care in England for IC is kind of like medical care for IC in Canada, and that is it's not so hot sometimes. Gabby says, so IC is a symptom, not a disease. No, IC is a syndrome. It's a syndrome. Your symptoms are frequency, urgency, pressure, pain. Okay. Now, in her case, what was so interesting is when we actually started probing and talking about her symptoms, her dominant symptom was an electrical zapping. When she sat down, it was like she was being shocked over and over and over and over again. Okay, that, my friends, does not come from the bladder wall at all. That comes from nerves. So when you think about your pelvis, right, here's your pelvis. You've got, what do we have in our pelvis? We've got muscles that go from left to right, front to back, low to high. Embedded in those muscles, we have the bladder or the prostate. We've got the uterus. We've got the vagina. We've got the ovaries. And of course, we have the bowel. Let's see. Let me get my demo. Oh, where is it? All right. So healthy pelvis. Healthy pelvis, healthy pelvic floor basically holds the organs in place. But remember, your muscles also help you move. They also help some muscles help you open your legs. sideways, some go forward, some go back. They all play important roles in how our bodies function. And one of the functions of the pelvic floor is indeed to kind of cup and hold and protect the organs in the pelvis, right? If your muscles are weak, look what happens. Things fall. And the other symptom that this patient in England was having was a pulling sensation downward, pulling downward. And for those of you who have followed this stream, you know, after my hysterectomy, that's what I had. It was like there was a fist up to my vagina, fingers grabbing my viscera and pulling downwards, right? That's what she had. Which is so interesting because it's such a weird, surreal symptom. You know, it's like, how the hell is there a fist in my vagina? There's nothing down there, but it sure feels like it's down there. So number one, she had an electrical zapping, and number two, she had a falling sensation, a pulling sensation downward. That, my friends, is entirely muscle. And in fact, when they did a cystoscopy and they looked in her bladder was entirely normal. It's because she's not a bladder wall patient. If she's got any bladder wall symptoms at all, it's related to estrogen atrophy because she's a little bit older, like I am. But fundamentally, anytime you have a falling sensation or a pushing upward sensation, we're talking muscle. And so where does the nerve zapping come from? The nerve zapping comes from muscles so tight, they're squeezing nerves. It's called a pudendal nerve entrapment. So one of the other symptoms of a pudendal nerve entrapment for some people is what I call one of the dirty secrets of IC, because a lot of patients simply don't tell everything to their doctors, and in many cases out of shame. And you don't need to be ashamed about this in any way, shape, or form. You're hurt. Having IC, having pelvic pain says nothing about you as a person. You're hurt. So one of the other symptoms of IC subtype 4, pudendal neuralgia, is something that we call PGAD, persistent genital arousal disorder. What that means is that the muscles are so tight, they're squeezing the pudendal nerve. And what happens is you sometimes get this painful arousal sensation that is really hell ass creepy. Like, so it happened to me for about, I don't know, 2 weeks. Like my first year or second year, something like that. And it's like, what the? Whoa, no, I don't like this at all. It's like this painful arousal, hurts so good, hurts so bad, terrible, awful. I hate every minute of this pain, right? So I'd asked her if she'd had that. And she was like, yeah, how'd you know that? And it's like, well, because you have a nerve entrapment. That's what we would expect to see. And the good news that I was able to give her is when we consider these variants and subtypes, some of these subtypes are curable. Patients respond beautifully to pelvic floor physical therapy. Most patients do. Some patients don't because of other pre-existing bony issues, bony structure issues. But we were able to walk away from that meeting yesterday, or that coaching session yesterday, with some hope for her and a plan for her. So we wrote out a plan on what I wanted her to do with her doctor when she saw them, which is, doctor, I am here because, so she's not going to say, I have IC. Please don't do that. What she's going to say is, doctor, I have 3 symptoms that I don't understand. I have an electrical zapping sensation when I sit down right above my pubic hair and to the left. I have a pulling sensation in my vagina. I don't understand. And occasionally I get whatever the third one was. She only gets 10 minutes with her doctor. So it's like, okay, man, tunnel vision. We're focusing on anatomy. Don't fall down the rabbit hole of talking about IC. Okay. Hey, I got to go get a sweater. Hold on. It's real cold. I'll be right back. Whoops. Alrighty, sorry about that. It is cold here in California. It is snowing one county north. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. Crap. All right, sorry about that. Hold Hold on. Okay. Oh, that's better. So weird to go from hot to cold to hot to cold, right? So weird. Okay. All right. So you, my friends, are an anatomical mystery to be solved. And my goal here with this meeting is to make you so strong, so knowledgeable, so informed that nobody can ever F with you again, right? Never again. Never again. We are strong. We are empowered. We are educated. We are knowledgeable. We are receptive. We do our research. We are freaking awesome. Never doubt the power that you have at this very moment to deal with whatever happens in your life, because you are truly one day older and one day wiser. So for those of you who are afraid to go back to the doctor because you think something bad's going to happen, hell no, nothing bad is going to happen, because you know to ask questions now. You are not destined to repeat mistakes of the past. You are in control. You pay them, they don't pay you. You get to make the decisions about how you're cared for. You get to make the decisions about your treatments, but the only way you can do that is if you're informed, right? Don't be one of those patients who calls me and says, Jill, I've done everything and nothing's worked. And I start asking specifics like, okay, what did you do? They go, well, I had bladder treatments. And I went, well, what kind of bladder treatments did you have? They go, I don't know. It's like, wait a second, you let a doctor put something in your bladder and you don't even know what the hell they put in your bladder? No, that's not okay. Seriously, that's not okay. You gotta be involved and invested here in this. And it begins with understanding your anatomy. It's very hard to make a decision about the right therapy until we understand your anatomy, also known as your subtype. Now, listen, you guys on Facebook, you are kicking butt. You've got 81 comments so far, and I can't read any of them right now because I'm doing this, okay? And so please don't be offended if I don't answer your question right away. I will try to get back to it, and you are welcome to ask your question again. Okay, now, I have to, God, what the hell is wrong with my glasses? They're so weird. I want to get some of those blue light glasses to block blue lights. Okay. Where does a support group leader go for support? Anybody know? Yeah, I'm a support group leader. I have to tell you something real quick. Oh my God, and I didn't even do what I was going to do. Oh, hold up, before we do that. Okay, so remember what I was saying about we have a whiteboard and we ask people what their favorite thing is, right? So I've got this great list of things for newly diagnosed patients to learn from. Can we just start the meeting this way? I want you guys right now to write into your stream what is, let's see, oh God, there's so many good questions here. It's wintertime for those of us in North America. What is your favorite icy friendly hot drink? What is your favorite icy friendly hot drink? Please go ahead and put that in there and let's see what you guys have to say. What do you like? For me, it's pumpkin spice rooibos tea. It's also hot apple cider, very, very diluted with a little bit of cinnamon and anise. Heidi says, Dr. Peters finally ordered my estradiol cream. Yeah, baby. Wendy says, this is what's been happening with me lately. Zapping in the vajayjay is never fun. Yep, nerve entrapment. Jessica, I have a pulling feeling with my pelvic floor. Yep, pelvic floor dysfunction. Lee says, my urologist told me that I need to get the InterStim put in. I'm scared of having surgery again. My God. I'm screaming today in pain. I'm thinking everyday thing. What do you think? I think that you need to read about neuromodulation. I have a whole section of it on our website. Please go on over to icnetwork.org. There are two forms of neuromodulation. There's ankle stimulation, known as urgent PC, as compared to sacral neuromodulation or prudental neuromodulation that's done at the spine. The ankle stim requires no surgery, and yet it is equally approved by Medicare and has the same success rate as InterStim. So most patients indeed start with the ankle stimulation first, but we have to know why. I mean, if you've got a Hunner's lesion, InterStim doesn't make any sense. We need to make sure the lesion is treated correctly. Whereas if you've got some nerve dysfunction, maybe the InterStim might be helpful. So what is your favorite icy friendly hot drink? Look at you guys. You are so freaking awesome to each other. I love you. I love your kindness to each other. Jesse says, I was curious to know if IC causes lower back pain. I also have stage 3 endo, so I always think it could be both. IC subtype 2 bladder wall, IC subtype 3 pelvic floor driven is notorious for causing low back pain because you've got giant psoas muscles that go from your pelvic area all the way up into your low back, and those pelvic floor muscles can get tight and cause pain. I get psoas spasms. Peppermint tea, kava tea. I've never done kava tea before. Hot drink, peppermint tea, honey, vanilla, chamomile, herbal tea, warm vanilla, almond milk, yum. Anise tea. I happen to love anise myself. Jessica says, my favorite is A&W root beer, and I can't drink any tea due to pain and urgency. The reason why A&W root beer is actually IC friendly is because it's one of the original root beers that usually does not have any extra added caffeine or acid. And that's why A&W root beer. But you have to look at the label because I think at one point in time they changed it, but they might have changed back. Peppermint tea, cut up ginger, boiling water. Steamed milk from Starbucks with a pump of vanilla? Girl, love it. I had my first pumpkin spice from Starbucks on Thanksgiving, and I have to say, yeah, I didn't like it. Pamela says, my doctor's working to try me with hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Awesome. Yes. Pam, I did an article on it in our magazine, I think a couple issues ago. We had yet another new research study which showed that hyperbaric oxygen therapy was remarkably effective for patients, especially those patients with Hunner's lesions. So if you are a member of the IC network, go back like 2 issues and you'll find that in our magazine. And memberships are 15% off right now over on the IC network. Just use coupon code BELIEVE. And by the way, I want to show you my lights. How do you like those lights up there? Pretty cool, huh? I like lights. All right. Okay. So I have to tell you a story. Hi, Andrea. Hi, Jana. You get the magazine. Just go on over to icnetwork.org. Look at, and if you scroll down the page or near the top of the page, you'll see a picture of our fall issue. And well, here. Okay, well, there's just something I want to tell you, but okay, let's just do this. So we're going to do the official unveiling of the magazine right now. It's very cool. All right. So I just got them. Woohoo! How's that? So our magazine is called the IC Optimist for a reason, and that is I am an optimistic person, and I'm optimistic about the future of IC patients. And this is before subtypes, right? Now we know that many patients improve, and when patients don't improve, we go back and we revisit the diagnosis to try to figure out why they're not improving. So anyway, this is our fall issue. It's a wee bit late, my friends, and it's late because, hello, we had 7 power outages and mandatory evacuations here in California. It is physically impossible to work when you have no power or internet. And so I apologize for this being about a month late, but I had no control over it. But in this issue, there are a couple of really important things. I always try to do a Meet the IC expert interview. And in this case, it's Dr. Denise Pecht, who is outside of Atlanta. You know, Atlanta, Georgia has always been a bit of the South tends to be a little bit tricky when it comes to IC care. And I have to say that I think for those of you who live in the South, please don't take this the wrong way. But seriously, some of your doctors are up on a pedestal and they don't like to be talked to and they don't like questions. And and it's a notorious issue. It's much, much worse in the South than it is in any other part of the country. And so to find a female doctor who is excited about working with IC patients, who is compassionate, who is kind, who is respectful, and who uses subtyping in her practice. This really, I was thrilled. We had a lovely conversation, and then I did a brief interview with her. So Dr. Denise Pecht, she is at Gwinnett's Progressive Healthcare for Women in Lawrenceville, Virginia. My editorial is on the fires again. Because hella, everybody's got to know this, guys. Y'all got to know what's happening right now. Climate change is devastating this world right now. And in California, we've lived through 3 years of firestorms. In Australia right now, they had 100 new fires yesterday or the day before. We've got problems. And being in the middle of it is scary. And so we got to open our eyes as a world and start working on this. Anyway, enough of that. The big article in this one is an article on confusable conditions. And this is something you guys had been asking me to do for the last year. Have you missed something? This is an exhaustive list of the things that should be ruled out. And if you're not responding to therapy, if you're getting worse rather than better, the American Urology Association is very, very clear. It's time to revisit the diagnosis and let's make sure we haven't missed something. So this is a list of things that can be easily missed. Like, for example, radiation cystitis. If you had prostate cancer for guys, if you've had ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, and you were treated with radiation, guess what? Radiation can be damaging to the urinary tract. If you've had chemocystitis, it stuns me the number of patients that I talk with. You know, we go over their symptoms and I go, well, listen, have you ever had cancer? And they go, yeah. And I go, well, when were you last treated? They go, well, 6 months ago. And I went, didn't anybody tell you about chemocystitis? No. The chemicals from chemotherapy, many of the medications are very traumatic and damaging to the bladder wall. So that is the equivalent of a bladder injury. Okay. We know that other medications can cause bladder injury, like ketamine or tioprophenic acid. We know that you can be injured from junk food. I'm telling you right now. Who was I working with? I was working with a lovely man who confessed to a addiction to, I think it was it Mountain Dew? Like he was drinking 6 Mountain Dews a day when his bladder finally started reacting to this massive acid load. You know, listen, if you poured sulfuric acid on your hand, as somebody who's done that, because I have my degrees in chemistry, it's a bad thing when you do that. Acid will cause a red spot and then a wound if you don't wash it off right away, right? So when you think about the high levels of acid in food and you're thinking like soda and you're thinking that that's safe, yeah, it might be safe once in a blue moon, once a week. But if you're pouring acid on healthy tissue all day, every day, and worse, you're not drinking water to dilute that acid, You can damn well bet this skin is going to get pinker and pinker and redder, bigger and bigger. And eventually you're going to see erosion of the skin and ulceration of the skin. You know, your bladder was designed for life 20,000 years ago. Wasn't designed for life in 2019 with this massive acid load we have every day. And as a consequence, your bladder may not be able to defend itself against that acid. Now, that's very true for people who are Scandinavian, like me. I'm Norwegian and Swedish, right? My family's from the Arctic Circle. There was no acid up there other than fruit, berries, seasonal berries before they were ripe. That's the only acid we were introduced to. That's it. As compared to maybe somebody who grew up around the equator who had more fruit in their daily environment, where their body may have had thousands of years to build defenses to that acid, whereas my body does not have a lot of defenses to that acid. So food can be damaging if you overindulge. Your body is designed for water. Your body consists, what is it, 97%, 96% water? Your body needs water to survive. If your urine is a dark yellow or brown, you are dehydrated. You are not drinking enough water. If your urine is clear, you're drinking too much water. Your urine is supposed to be a pale, clear yellow. Okay. What else can cause injury to the bladder? Well, so the other things that we want to rule out are going to be overactive bladder, which is essentially kind of a nerve dysfunction. We want to rule out an obstruction of the bladder neck that's interfering with your ability to empty your bladder. We want to rule out neurogenic bladder, where maybe your nerves have been damaged if you've had a spinal cord injury, anything like that, or a stroke. We want to rule out, I think, one of the most fascinating cases, and I have to say, I just worked with another patient, same thing. She had a bladder stone in her urine. So what the hell is a bladder stone? A bladder stone is basically a kidney stone that's fallen into the bladder, yet unfortunately is so large it won't pass through. And your urine has crystals in it. Your urine has minerals in it, like calcium and oxalate. So what happens, especially if you're dehydrated and your urine is dark yellow, is those crystals migrate together and they form bigger crystals. And bigger crystals and bigger crystals. And then guess what? You have a stone. The problem with stones is that because they're made of crystals, they have very, very sharp edges. The second problem with stones is that they're covered with bacteria. So you've got this sharp stone floating around in your bladder, cutting your bladder wall, and then it's introducing bacteria because it's covered with bacteria. So we had one woman who was afraid to have a cystoscopy. She'd had symptoms for several years. Finally, they got so bad, she let the doctor look in her bladder, and he was stunned that he found a giant bladder stone. And when they broke it up and got it out, guess what? Symptoms healed. Cured. And somebody else, I think it was on Facebook in one of the support group meetings, they just found a bladder stone in her too. The bladder stone, you can be genetically predisposed to kidney stones and bladder stones, and it's what's it called? Bladder stones are remarkably common throughout the world. Up to 12% of men, 5% of women will develop a urinary stone by the age of 70. Patients who consume an excess of oxalates greater than 40 milligrams a day or struggle with bacterial overgrowth or pancreatic disease have a higher risk, as well as patients who take high doses of vitamin C. Now, I don't understand the science of that. Okay, but anyway, we want to make sure that you don't have a urethral diverticulum. I had one patient that we were working with, again, fascinating case, because she was diagnosed with IC. She had all the symptoms of IC, frequency, urgency, pressure, pain, but her symptoms were really concentrated in her urethra. But nobody really looked at her urethra. And so she'd go from doctor after doctor after doctor. And then finally, a nurse listened to her and said, you know what? Let's order an MRI. Let's do a cross section of your urethra and see if anything weird's going on in your urethra. And this is what they found. They found a tube underneath her urethra. Look at that. The size of her urethra. It's called a diverticulum. It was a little, started out as a little tiny pouch that got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And when you have a diverticulum off your urethra, what happens is it collects urine, and then it doesn't drain, and then it becomes infected, and then it becomes irritated, right? So again, this is a patient who was cured once they removed the diverticulum with surgery. And if she hadn't been persistent about saying, it's my urethra, it's my urethra, and if she hadn't found not a doctor, but a nurse who said, well, let's just take a look at that urethra, who found the diverticulum, she would be suffering today, doing therapies today that would have no effectiveness on her symptoms, none. Let's see, what else? I'm just looking at your things here too. All right, so anyway, we've got this great article on all the confusable diseases. Benign prostatitis hyperplasia, pelvic pleural-pated pain, pudendal neuralgia, Tarlov cyst, bladder wall perforations, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that's one article. Another article that Stacy Shannon, our writer who's an IC patient, did. I love this article. 15 signs you may need to break up with your urologist. Yeah. Your urologist doesn't want you to ask questions. Your urologist doesn't explain what they're doing. Your urologist, your treatment isn't working. Your urologist doesn't care. You don't feel you can be open with your urologist. Your urologist doesn't share your results with you. Yeah, baby, come on now. Okay, Julie Beyer, registered dietitian, contributes an article, Should You Be Probiotics? And she explains probiotics and the relationship that has to the bladder, along with some fabulous recipes on fresh asparagus soup and this wonderful breakfast recipe. All right. 3 new studies for those of you who you find yourself in the Elmeron group where you're having the eye damage. We highlight the 3 new studies that were released in the last couple months, proving yet again that Elmeron's linked to eye disease. Here's an interesting article, Why Initial UTIs Increase Susceptibility to Further Infection. You know, that's one of the great mysteries, is why do some people get infection over and over and over and over and over and over again? There's just a group of people who do. They do. And the question is why? And this research study explains why. We go over the latest IC research. We go over consumer alerts, specifically why you should try Mirbitrix rather than Ditropan or Detrol, because Mirbitrix can help frequency urgency, but it's not linked to dementia. I have a wonderful article by Audrey Holiker on hypnotherapy. Works. It works. If you're in pain, it helps. You know. I include some of my favorite fall recipes in here too. And then, of course, scattered throughout this, we have some of the winners of our contest for the 2019 IC Awareness Month. This is our winning poster. Isn't this wonderful? Absolutely wonderful. By Erin Dryberg. Thank you, Erin. This is our poster for next year. She won a $100 gift certificate from Amazon. Okay, so if you would like to get our magazine, you can come on over to the IC Network. You can buy individual copies for $8, or you can just sign up and become a member. For $25 a year, you get the last 4 issues and 4 future issues. You get 8 total issues. For $50 a year, you get 2 years worth of back issues, 4 future issues, and other stuff. And then we have a mega membership, $100 a year. And you get 5 years worth of back issues in the IC Chef Cookbook and other stuff like that. And that's how we pay for this meeting, my friends. You know, so if you find this helpful, it would be really great if you could become a member, and you get 15% off right now, which is great. Okay. Now, I have to tell you something that happened to me. And now, well, I'll dive into your questions, okay? So, for those of you who were here last Sunday for our meeting last Sunday, God, it was a great meeting. Oh my God, I loved it. I felt so good after that meeting. And I woke up the next morning and I felt so good. I was having a great day. I feel very blessed that I have a job I love. I'm working with patients on the phone. I'm answering emails. I'm talking to all sorts of people. I am having a great day. And then the phone rang. My 97-year-old dad answered it because I care for my elderly parents. And I heard him walking up the hallway to come get me. And he goes, Jill, Kaiser's on the phone. Kaiser's my healthcare. And I'm like going, okay, that's odd. Why would they be calling me? Why would they be calling me? So, he hands me the phone. I go, hi, it's Jill. And she goes, well, this is whatever her name is. I'm calling from the radiology department. We found a problem with your mammogram. What? And I kind of joked. I actually, even before I said that, I kind of joked with her and I said, normally when Kaiser calls in the middle of the day, it's bad news. Please tell me that this isn't bad news. And she goes, well, we found a spot in your left breast. And like, holy shit. The world stopped. Now, for those of you who know me, I went through uterine cancer 2.5 years ago. And I just went numb. And I was like, what? And she said, you need to come back in. We have to take a closer look. We think you might have breast cancer. I'm like, what? And I'm just like, I just died on the inside a little bit, right? It's like, wait, what? What? And Emily says, I'd love to write for the magazine. Emily, I'd love to have you write for the magazine. You got it, girl, reach out to me. I'm always looking for new stories. Anybody out there who wants to write, you love to write, please. Always looking for new stories. And guess what? I pay you for them, which is even better. All right. So anyway, I go, I say, well, okay, when do you want me to come in? She goes, well, that's the problem. We're running late. I can't get you in for at least 10 days. And I went, wait a second. You're calling me the Monday before Thanksgiving. I've got a big household group of people coming. I've now got to get through Thanksgiving thinking that I'm dying of breast cancer. And she's like, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And so we made the appointment for December 5th. And I hung up the phone and I'm like looking at my parents going, oh my God, holy shit. No, not again. Not again. So I was done. I had to get our sale put up. I had to get my newsletter out and I'm sitting here crying. I'm sitting here crying and then patients are calling and I'm like trying to hide it. And I didn't sleep that night at all. I was laying in bed the next morning and I remembered the support group meeting and I remembered what I say to you guys. And that is, I don't want you to be a patient. I want you to be a respondent, a responsible participant in your medical care. I don't want you to hide in your bedroom and not say anything. I want you to get out, kick some butt, ask a lot of questions. And I went, Jill, don't sit here and cry. Be a respondent. Call the freaking doctor and see if there's a cancellation. There was a cancellation. I got in Wednesday. No cancer. No cancer. 36 hours of hell, my friends. 36 hours of hell. And I go back in and she shows it to me and it's a little V-shaped thing. And she goes, you know what? This looks like fluid. And I'm like, okay. She takes it to the urologist. The urologist goes, send her home. She's fine. It's just fluid. And the thing, and of course, then I cried for the whole next day because here I was massively traumatized by the whole thing, thinking I was dying of cancer for 2 days. The thing that struck me about this was, there are two things that struck me about this, that they called to give me the information, but they didn't have a good follow-up plan. And I thought it was really unnecessary to make anybody wait for 10 days after you've told them that they might have cancer, especially on the holidays. I thought that was really quite cruel. I could still be crying today, waiting, because my appointment would have been in 5 days. But the other thing that really struck me was that moment when everything stopped, that I'm like standing there listening to her, and she goes, "There's a problem in your left breast." And I don't know, and I was thinking about that and and I don't I don't know how. I can't describe it. It's like we have a defense, and it's almost like we step way back and we're watching ourselves. And I'm fascinated by that moment, and I'm appalled by that moment, and I don't want anybody to go through that, although I know many women have gone through that. So, the moral of that story, if there is a moral of that story, it is that it is to please, 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 please don't hide. Don't suffer in silence. Pick up the freaking phone and call. Don't wait. Call. I called like 10 times in 30 minutes until I got through. And one of those calls, while it was busy, was somebody canceling, and I got her appointment. So, guys, please, 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 please call over and over and over again. Nanette says, my kids want to give me a membership. Can they do that by going on the IC network? Yeah, absolutely. They can buy a membership and they can put it in your name, or they can call and do that. Kelly mentioned that we lost an IC sister. It's always a very, very hard. That's why we want you to be strong, knowledgeable, informed. I don't want you thinking that there is no hope, because with subtyping, we're getting so much better at finding the right treatments and the right pain relief. So if any of you are in a situation where you're just not getting better, please come on over to our website, watch the subtyping video, or you can call me. We're the only IC group where we take patient phone calls. Great. If you get right through, awesome. If you have to leave a message, just know that I try to call everybody back. First come, first served every day. Okay. There's hope, my friends, and I'm more than happy to try to walk you through stuff and see if we can create an action plan for you and questions for your doctors for you. And let's see if we can make some change in a good, positive direction. All right, guys, take a sip of water. Going to do a couple deep breaths. In for 3. Out for 3. Not for you, for me. In for 3. Out for 3. In for 3. And out for 3. Let's do some affirmations. affirmations, which is what I was doing driving to the doctor. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now insert your faith, whatever it is. You don't have to say Christ. I can do all things through who strengthens me. I can do all things. Be bold, and mighty forces shall come to thy aid. Be bold. Dare to pick up the phone and call someone. Here's a secret, my friends. You want to know a secret? If you go onto the National Library of Medicine, which is pubmed.gov, you can read all the latest research on IC. And in every article is the personal email address of the researcher doing the study. Be bold. Email them. That's what I did. I'm kind of notorious for calling people I shouldn't call, but I don't respect anybody who says I shouldn't call. I got in trouble when I worked for the feds because I called a top secret line. It's hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. My success rate while I was in graduate school and I was working for the federal government for Social Security, my success rate solving problems was very, very high. I was a top performer in my office because I just called. I wouldn't send email and wait days for an answer. I just call them up. And then finally one day, accidentally dialed this super top secret phone number by accident. And the guy on the other end, what did he say? It was like out of this spy novel. He's like, what's your ID? What's what? And I'm like, well, I'm Jill. I'm from the San Rafael Social Security office. He goes, how'd you get this number? I'm like, oh, I might have misdialed. He goes, let me talk to your supervisor immediately. I got creamed. I don't care. Be bold, my friends. Be bold, and mighty forces shall come to thy aid. Say to yourself, every day in every way, my life is getting better. If you think it, you're telling your brain the direction you want to go. I don't want you sitting there thinking, every day my life is getting worse. That's shit. Don't do it. I want you to say, every day in every way, my life is going to get better or is getting better. Focus on a positive future. Focus on a positive future. That which is done for you, let it be done. That which you must do for yourself, do it. Do it. Don't give up. Do it. If that means you got to drive an hour to get to a new doctor, do it. Do it. Okay? So everyday affirmations. But again, my favorite one is be bold and mighty forces shall come to thy aid. I love that. It's my motto in life. All right. All right. Let's do some questions. It's enough of me. You've heard enough from me. So I got to move my computer around a little bit here. YouTube, you guys are being a wee bit quiet. What's going on down there on YouTube? So when I'm looking up here, I'm looking at Facebook. When I'm looking down here, I'm looking at YouTube. Jana says, how can I get the magazine? Going over to our website, you can subscribe. Hello, Donna. Hi, Lisa. Lisa, I was going to try to call you this week, but then I had my little problem and life stopped for a couple of days. But I'm going to call you this week. Donna, I hope life is treating you well. I really do. All of you, I hope life is treating you well. Hi, Andrea. Hi, Kay. All right. So let's go up to Facebook here. Now, you guys, Facebook sometimes lets me scroll backwards and sometimes doesn't. Okay, seriously, if you're calling, I'm not going to answer the phone, but I'm going to look real quick. Oh, hold on. It's my sister. Hey, I'm doing a live support group meeting right now.
Okay, I'm going to have them text you a code. Can you text it to me, please?
Yeah, no problem. Okay, bye. All right. That was important. Jessica Williams says she loves to write too. Good, girl, right. You guys, I just don't, I'll tell you, you can send me a query letter if you want, if there's a topic that you would like to write about, and I'll give you feedback on if I can do that. Here, hold on a sec. I gotta text her the security code. She's obviously working on banking for the IC network. So hold on. Ah! All right, here, hold on. Let me just text her. Life, right? Life. All right, hold on. 5717. Okay. All right. Aaron says, can we drink pomegranate juice and blueberry juice? I think pomegranate juice is a bit harsh. I don't know. I have never been able to enjoy pomegranate juice myself. Blueberry juice, yes. I would strongly dilute it 2 or 3 to 1, though. So 1 cup blueberry juice, 2 cups water. Throw some ice in there to add more dilution, and I think you'll be fine. Okay, I can't scroll up. Vicky says, I don't think she should have worded it that way. Vicky, I don't know what you're talking about. If it's something that I said, please let me know and I will explain myself. Oh, so getting back to the writers. So for those of you, listen, I only tried, I try to only hire IC patients and pelvic pain patients. And the reason why I do that is because I don't want you to think that you're worthless. I don't want you to think that you're unable to make money and that you have no value. I am living proof that you can have wicked bladder pain and still at the time and still do, important things. I wrote the entire IC Network website sitting on our bladder friendly chair cushion, taking Vicodin at times because my pain was so bad. And yet I'm living proof that I'm better. I don't live with pain every day anymore. That doctor was wrong. Geraldine says, did anyone have the pudendal neuralgia that was fixed, so worried that it can't be? I want to sit and be normal again. Geraldine, yes. Of course, the challenge with nerve injuries is the longer the nerve is injured, the more challenging it is for the nerve to calm down. And so the sooner we can get on that nerve entrapment and try to reduce that, the better. When you read about pudendal neuralgia, one of the things that they're really clear in saying is you have to stop whatever is entrapping that nerve. And that means if you get pain sitting, you got to get up off of your, what, and stand up until they can address the fundamental problem, which is probably very, very tight muscles. The last thing we want to do is sit in that specific position, whichever one it is, that is triggering that pain. And so this is why I have a sit stand desk. This is why I have a yoga ball. This is why I have because I have muscles so tight that they occasionally um, um, get entrapped too. And for me, I feel it the most at night when I lay down flat. When I lay down in bed, I feel a vibration of a fluttering. And that's strictly from a pudendal nerve entrapment. You guys are great. Thank you for your kind words. I'll tell you, it was a hell of a week. My life stopped for 3 days, that's for sure. Oh, Molly. Brenda said, I had a scare some years ago, turned out to be fluid. You drank too much caffeine. Yeah. And for me, not only was I drinking a little bit of decaf coffee at the time, I had a bite about an inch away from where it was because we were going through this thing with bites this fall. And I think it was a leftover from the bite. Jennifer says, I just can't see hope for the future, that for sure I'm going to be okay. Jennifer, listen, if there's one thing you can absolutely rely on is that the human body is wired for healing. If you fell and skinned your knee, you'd have a scab on it tomorrow. I can promise you, your body is trying to fix whatever the hell's going on. The challenge is we often get in the way. We get in the way of healing. We get in the way of healing because we guess. You deserve more than a guess. You need facts. And that ultimately is one of the biggest challenges that I see patients face is that in many cases you are guessing or your doctor is guessing. You've got frequency, urgency, pressure, pain. You immediately assume infection. Your doctor immediately assumes infection. They give you antibiotics, send you on your way. They don't work. You go back to the doctor. The doctor goes, well, you must have a resistant infection. They give you different antibiotics. They don't work. They finally do the proper test. The proper test doesn't necessarily find infection. Then they go in and they start looking at other things, preferably. So some of you might have Hunner's lesions. The cool thing about Hunner's lesions is the lesion is treated correctly. The patient's symptoms improve dramatically, massively. The single most common cause of unremitting pain in the IC patient population are Hunner's lesions that were never treated correctly. Elmaron does not treat a Hunner's lesion. What treats a Hunner's lesion is a steroid injection or cauterization, something like that. Lisa, girl, you and I are going to have a long talk, okay? Jana says, I've been dealing with IC since I was in my 20s. I'm now 68. I'm tired of this. The nerve pain may be what I'm experiencing now. So, Jana, remember when you were diagnosed 40 years ago, the automatic assumption was that you had a bladder disease. But now that we have subtyping, we kind of walk back in time. We want to walk back in time to when you were in your 20s. And I want you to think about it. Did anything happen in your 20s? In the 3 months, 6 months, a year before your symptoms began? Anything weird? Did you have a car accident? Did you have a fall? Did you go skiing and fall off the ski lift? Were you raped? Were you training for an extreme sport? Did you have a baby? Did you have a tear during the baby? Or were your muscles torn? Anything at all like that? We really, 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 really look for, significant events. And no matter what anybody says, your intuition, in my opinion, matters. Because in many cases, your intuition can be correct in terms of linking cause and effect. Vicky says, I'm a 6-year survivor. I have the recalled Allergan implant. Vicky says, what's in my water? It looks murky. Oh man, this would be really nasty water. It's actually herbal tea. It's a pumpkin spice rooibos herbal tea. You can see the stuff floating in it. We were selling this on the IC network, but it came in those little silken bags. And we had a research study this summer which showed that herbal teas that come in silken bags release thousands of microplastics into every cup. And so now I stopped selling them. I sent them back to the company and said, you better change this to a paper thing. But I happen to love this tea so much that I went and got this. I don't know if you can see this. This is a little thing. You put the tea in, right? And then you put it in your hot water, and so you're not getting any microplastics from it. So I'm going through myself the last stock of pumpkin spice herbal tea. You can go to Harney and Sons, or just go down to, if you've got a Barnes and Noble near you, they sell it at Barnes and Noble. It's a special holiday thing. We sell it all year. So there you go, pumpkin spice herbal tea with rooibos. It's really more vanilla-y. You don't get any pumpkin taste at all from it. It's my go-to. Nanette says, I have an interstim in my left, on your left side. You've been having pain at the ankle. Could that be possible? Absolutely. The battery replaced in February, but due to all the craziness with finding a new doctor, she says she has to bring in a tech, but this just started. Yeah, because the nerve goes, the nerve that they're working on splits away from the sacrum, goes down both legs. It's called the posttibial nerve, and it ends up by your toes. And that's why when they do the InterStim trial and they turn it on, they're watching your feet. And if your big toe flexes down, or your big toe would flex down. Well, here, your big toe would flex down, or your other toes kind of splay out. When they turn the unit on, that means that it's perfectly positioned, not only for InterStim, but also for ankle PC. So the fact that you're having pain in your ankle could easily be a complication from that. I mean, you definitely got to get it checked out, no doubt about that. And I guess the operative question would be, if you turn it off, does the pain go away? See what the tech from Medtronic has to say about that. Vicki, the name of the website is PubMed, PUBMED.gov, PubMed. That's the National Library of Medicine. Cindy said, great, I love success stories. Cindy says, since the Cistro Protec had the cancer-causing ingredient, I started taking bladder rest and Peora and the multi-probiotic. I have had very little urethral pain. Thank you. Yeah, baby. Yeah. I love success stories. And for that, remember when I started, I was telling you about the patient in England that I was working with yesterday, and she wanted to try a supplement. And the one, given the fact that her bladder wall is healthy, the one I suggested was Peora, because we know in an IC research study that PEA and resveratrol was remarkably effective at reducing nerve-related pain. And so, did I bring it in here? Where is it? Here, hold on. Oh, my legs are stiff. Well, that is weird. I swear I brought it in here. Come on, I just had it. Here it is. Here, I gotta zip this up. Hold on. All right. Yes. Winter has arrived in California. All right, my friends. Peora. This is turning out to be really, really helpful for some patients, as Cindy just said. This Peora, PEA, palmitoethanolamide, it has been studied with many, many pain conditions, including IC. Very, very few side effects reported. In fact, the IC study found no side effects with a PEA resveratrol combination. And at 3 months, 87% of patients had a significant reduction in their pain. At 6 months, every single IC patient taking the European version of this, not Peora, they were taking something called UMPI that we cannot get in the United States. This is the American version of that formula. But anyway, in that study, 100% of patients had a significant reduction of pain at 6 months, and 25% were pain-free. And the cool thing about this supplement is that of all the supplements out there, it's the cheapest. It's just $29. So worth a shot, my friends. Listen, if you're struggling with pain and your doctor is unwilling to, give you any pain medicine or anything at all like that, and you want some relief, it might be really interesting to try, right? Also, Cindy, not to complicate things, but Cistro Protec will be back by the end of the month. I have placed our first order for it. It has been reformulated to remove the titanium dioxide. Can I just take a moment? I need to take a moment and thank our sponsor. Preleaf. Where would we be without Preleaf? Pre-Leaf is an acid-reducing supplement that can take the acid out of foods, so that you might be able to eat it and not experience bladder irritation. So some of you probably used it before Thanksgiving. And as Christmas is coming up with big meals, Pre-Leaf might help you get through eating lasagna at your grandma's house, right? So it's made of calcium glycerophosphate. It is known for its acid-reducing properties. It's been around for over 30 years, with the most successful supplement used in the IC community by far. It doesn't do anything to the bladder. It really just reduces acid levels. And it's a remarkable resource for people who are struggling. And so there's a bottle of it right here. If you would like to try some Pre-Leaf, you can find it on our website. I just a warning, and that is that you don't eat this like candy. More is not better. You just eat it when you need it, before a meal. It is a calcium supplement, and that calcium has to go somewhere. So if you start eating a lot of it every day, you could end up with excess calcium and kidney stones and things like that. So you just do your 1 or 2 before a meal, and you're gold. All right? Unless you're not allowed to do calcium because you're already prone to kidney stones. Okay. Thank you, DSC Healthcare Solutions, for sponsoring this webcast. Katrina says, when do you think IC will be nationally known by a wide variety of doctors, so we don't have to try so hard to find a doctor that believes us? That's why I'm very clear in saying I don't think you should walk into any doctor's office saying you've got IC. You have to understand the history. So the history of IC is very, very interesting. The first medical journal article on IC happened in England about 1850. So 170 years ago, a doctor in England wrote a case study of a patient, and he described IC perfectly. If you read his definition today, it resonates. Now, the timing of it's very interesting to me, because the timing is basically in the middle of the Industrial Revolution, when England was immersed in chemicals and pollution from coal fires and all that sort of stuff. So the timing of it is absolutely fascinating. So he called it tic de la rue of the bladder. Anyway, there were kind of a variety of older names. Then in 1920, a researcher named Guy Hunter invented the cystoscope. And when he looked into a patient's bladder for the first time, he saw Hunter's lesions or Hunter's ulcers. They're named after him, Hunter, Guy Hunter. And that was when the term interstitial cystitis started being used. And then in the 20s, 30s, 40s, we had more research supporting it. During World War II, we had our first research study showing that it happened to men, that it happened to children. There was a really good groundswell of interest among doctors about this mysterious bladder thing. And it all stopped in the 1950s when 2 pricks of misogynist doctors, clearly misogynist doctors, wrote a case study of a female patient with all of these symptoms, and they blamed it on unexpressed anger manifested in the pelvis. And that poor woman was sent to psychiatry. And it just destroyed all of the momentum we had in the IC world back then to legitimize this condition. These 2 pricks of doctors, unbelievable the way they treated them. And so from like the 1950s all the way up to 1987, 37 years, my friends, most medical schools taught IC as a hysterical condition of postmenopausal women. And I know this. Dan Brookoff, for any of you who ever heard the name Dan Brookoff, Dr. Dan Brookoff was at Methodist Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, and he was the nation's leading pain expert for IC. But his specialty was an internal medicine doctor working with cancer patients, and he was working with a cancer patient when her sister came into the office with worse pain than the cancer patient and begged him for help. And he had never heard of IC. Well, he had heard of IC, but he remembered how he was taught about IC. So they had one day of rounds in medical school, and a top urologist came and taught the all-day seminar on urology conditions. And at the very end of the day, literally as the guy is at the podium packing up his stuff, he goes, "Oh, there's a condition I need to tell you about. It's called interstitial cystitis. These patients are going to be the worst patients you ever see. They're going to drive you crazy. And it's all in their head." And one of the medical students said, "Well, what do you do about it?" And the doctor said, "Well, we eventually remove their bladders." And the medical student replied back to him. He said, "But if it's all in their heads, why would you remove their bladder?" And the speaker dropped his head and shuffled out of the room, refusing to comment. And it turned out that that doctor eventually became one of the leading IC doctors at the time, later. But anyway, this is how Dan Brookoff in the early 1980s was taught about IC, that it was a hysterical condition in women. Fast forward to the founding of the two ICAs. There was an ICA founded in California first. They were very, very focused on research. And then Vicki Ratner started a year later the other ICA in New York. And they started pushing the government to do more research. And there's kind of a happy ending here, because in 1987, the National Institutes of Health released revised guidelines for IC, actually the first set of guidelines for IC for research studies. And eventually our government has put in more than $100 million studying IC. And we've had the IC Clinical Trials Group, we've had the IC Clinical Trials Research Network, and now we have the MAP Research Network, which is the multidisciplinary approach to the study of pelvic pain that covers both IC and chronic prostatitis, or what we call urologic pelvic pain syndromes. And so the research is hopping. Good things are happening. MAP Research Network, best research yet. They're the ones who found that many IC patients with flares have fungal infections, candida infections. They're the ones who have studied the biome, that we know that our biome is deficient in some people. They've done the brain study. They've done all sorts of great stuff. So the IC research movement right now is kicking ass and looking good. All right, let's go back to your questions. So Katrina, when do you think it will be nationally known? I can tell you that we've had articles in every major magazine out there. The first one started in Reader's Digest by a patient who wrote a letter to Reader's Digest. Her name was Marie Grimes. She's a friend of mine back in the late 80s, all the way to Glamour and all those others. They've all done stories on IC. The limiting factor here is medical schools. We've got to get the medical schools to have better courses on IC. I can tell you that I think it was 4 years ago, they put their first IC question on a medical licensing examination. So we're getting there. But if those two pricks hadn't published that paper in the 50s, it'd be another different story. And they deserve every condemnation we give them, because they set us back, and the countless suffering that happened because of their theory that a woman was emotional and angry damaged thousands and thousands of people. So I have no sympathy for them at all. You guys are talking about probiotics. We do have a probiotic that we sell from Douglas Labs. I think I have it right here. Yeah, here it is. Douglas Labs multi-probiotic is the one that we suggest. And also Bladder Builder has probiotics in it too. Again, 15% off right now. Christina, all the doctors say they can't help me in Canada. I went to the UK as well, but they did not help me. How do you find a nerve entrapment? Usually the way a nerve entrapment is diagnosed is, number one, your symptoms are very positional, and you've got the key elements of a nerve entrapment, which is going to be an electrical sensation, a buzzing sensation, a fluttering sensation, feeling like you're being shocked. That combined with positional symptoms. And then normally what they do is they do a nerve block. And if they can block the nerve and it turns your pain off, then we know that it's coming from that nerve. So, many, if not most IC patients or complex patients like you, where you think you have a nerve entrapment, would come to the United States. And generally where they go, if you're in Ontario, you would go see Dr. Ken Peters at Beaumont Health outside of Detroit. If you're on the East Coast, and you would go see Rob Moldwin at a Long Island. Those would be the top suggestions. And it's worth it, because when you go and see a national expert, you will learn more in 15 minutes than you probably will have gotten in 10 years with people who don't know about IC. And you have to understand that they've seen tens of thousands of cases in their careers. And their understanding of the intricacies of the pelvis and the things that can trigger bladder pain and pelvic pain is unprecedented. And you want somebody with that level of mastery to try to solve the mystery of your pelvic pain and trying to figure out what structures in your pelvis are triggering that pain. Sue says, I'm wondering why Dr. Peters wants to go through InterStim, even though he knows I have the scar tissue mass pressing on your nerve, because it still might calm and regulate that nerve. So kind of one of the things that happens when you've got a nerve compression, nerves are interesting. Nerves, so when you think of a nerve, it like goes from A to B, right? So like if you step on a nail or squeeze this, right? So that hurts. The nerve is carrying that message up my arm to my brain. It's processed in the brain 3 places. It gets to the upper brain. The upper brain says, you better move that finger off of that hot thing. It comes back down the nerve really, really quickly, and you move your finger back, right? Nerves are almost instantaneous. The mechanism of the nerve is interesting because you think it's an electrical impulse, like electricity, but it's not. It's a chemical cascade. It's a sodium channel thing. You've got ions that are moving of sodium and I think calcium. I might be wrong there. And you've got this, I wish I had a really good picture on this movement of ions going up and down, up and down, up and down as it's moving down the length of your nerve. And so when a nerve is traumatized, sometimes the action potential changes and the action potential gets a little bit lower and that nerve gets a little bit more sensitive. Think about if you've ever had shingles. So with shingles, some patients have pre-existing pain after the shingles heals. Why? Because that nerve has become more sensitive. And it can take quite a long time for that nerve to calm down. So one of the theories behind InterStim is that it helps to re-regulate that nerve. So I mean, if there's a chance that it can help to calm some of those nerves down until they can get to the bottom of what's going on with that scar tissue down in your pelvic floor, it's I don't see a reason not to do it, unless it's unaffordable or unless there's another sort of risk factor that you might be concerned about. You can talk to Dr. Peters about your worries and your fears. He's a lovely guy. He's a lovely man, and let him know that you're struggling with it and you're not sure, uh-oh. Can you guys still see me? I just got a message saying that my Facebook live video stopped. Kim says, are there any supplements good for fluttering nerve pain? Yes, Peora. So you can hear me on YouTube. The question is, can anybody hear me on Facebook? Facebook, 1, 2, 3, Facebook. Nope, Facebook has stopped. Let me start it up again. Hold on. Let's see what happens. Hello, Facebook. See now, it's all rainy outside and the lighting is all weird. Facebook, are you working? Hello, Christine. Hello, Christine on Facebook. Yeah, the Facebook feed just died. I don't know why, but it did. All right, y'all are coming back now. Hi, guys. Hi, Janie. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I just got the black screen of death. I know, weird, right? Weird. Life is weird. Life is weird anyway. All right, so I had to restart the stream on Facebook. So all of your questions are now gone and you're going to have to re-ask them. It just went dead. It's an internal, it's a Facebook error. It wasn't my error. They reset something. Geraldine says, I've never heard of InterStim treatments. InterStim's been around for a long time, hon. You got to come read our website, icnetwork.org. InterStim is a step 4 treatment option. It's been around for many, many years, 15 years. InterStim, the theory behind InterStim is that for some people, IC is kind of a nerve dysfunction. And so they thought that if you re-regulated the nerves, what is wrong here? Something's wrong. Hold on. It's so hard at the mirror of myself. Okay. Is that right? Is that right? Okay. So the theory here is that if you re-regulate the nerves, you might be able to calm some of the frequency urgency if it's nerve driven. InterStim was developed at UC San Francisco by Dr. Richard Schmidt. I was a patient at UC San Francisco. I also ran the Northern California IC support group at that time. So my group was filled with some of Dr. Schmidt's patients, so early InterStim patients. And I will tell you, there was nothing good to be had back then. What I had were angry, traumatized patients who were having trials without any anesthesia. It was legendary that you could hear patients screaming in other rooms while they were trying InterStim trials back in the early 1980s. I'm sorry, early 1990s, not 80s. Oh man, video stopped again. Well, that sucks. All right, I'm going to try one more time with them. If you continue experiencing issues, you know what? Let me. Okay, hold on a sec. Let me restart a browser. And let's see if I can fix this once and for all. Thank you guys on YouTube. Thank you for your patience. Live IC pelvic pain support group meeting part 3. All right, let's try it again. All right, Facebook. Let's see what happens. The Facebook gods just made live streams might not be working on Facebook right now. Don't ask me. I don't know what the heck's going on with Facebook. Sorry, guys. Yes, back on. So you may need to, if this happens again with Facebook, just come on over to YouTube instead, and you can watch it on YouTube. Hello, Facebook. Hi, Cheryl. Sorry. It's an internal Facebook error. I'm just getting an internal error. So it is what it is. Cheryl says, hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. Yeah, you know what? It was so sweet and mellow. And it was coupled by the news, that the day before I found out I did not have breast cancer. And so it was a perfect day with the best sweet potato pie ever. Like my sister made stuffing with sausage. It was wonderful. Hello, Malia. Hello, Julianne. Hi, Brenda. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Deborah. So you guys, if it disappears again, just come on over to YouTube, okay? I mean, I'm not ready to stop. I'll keep talking as long as you've got questions. Okay, so getting back to InterStim. So InterStim was invented at UC San Francisco at UC San Francisco by Dr. Richard Schmidt. I ran the support group for San Francisco at the time. My group was filled with InterStim patients, early InterStim patients, and I will tell you, what happened to them was absolutely chilling, because they were doing implants without any anesthesia. Can you imagine? Can you freaking imagine what they went through? It was legendary. One mother brought her son, her teenage son who had IC, and the doctor said, hey, we can do this right now. And they went, okay. And she was out in the waiting room. She could hear her son screaming on the table because they weren't doing anesthesia. And obviously things are a lot better now. But one of the reasons why they do anesthesia now is because my group mobilized and I called Medtronic and screamed bloody murder at them that they were, because Medtronic bought it at that time. Medtronic bought the device from InterStim. So I called them and they sent one of their directors out to meet with me. And I had case after case after case after case of patients horribly traumatized by those early InterStim days. And so that's one of the reasons why they have anesthesia now, is because of what we did back then. They just, it's so weird how people just, if you're ever scheduled for a medical procedure, they don't necessarily tell you it's going to hurt. And I don't think that that's really fair. I think that you should be informed. You should be informed when you're going to have a cystoscopy, just a plain cystoscopy, also known as a looky-loo, that your urethra is probably going to hurt for about a day afterwards. And when you're going to have a hydrodistension with cystoscopy, there's a chance that your bladder might hurt for a couple of days and you might need pain care for that. But to tell somebody ahead of time that it's fine and it's not going to hurt when they bloody well know it's going to hurt, I think is really, really cruel. So anyway, fast forward. So InterStim bought the device. They made some changes. Dr. Richard Schmidt moved on to the University of Colorado, and he was later fired for, in one lawsuit, what they wrote was unsafe medical practices likely to result in the death of patients, if I remember correctly. If you go to the federal court records in Colorado, you should be able to pull those up because the university itself sued him because he took money from the company that the university said was theirs, and all the dirty laundry got put out in the federal records. So InterStim went through a very, very rocky time when the guy who created it ended up in a lot of lawsuits, and a lot of patients sued the university and sued him, and it was just a blank storm of epic proportions. Good things happened though too, because they then started affiliating with much better, more meticulous doctors like Dr. Ken Peters, who is probably the best InterStim surgeon in the world. And InterStim has a place. If you struggle with major incontinence, fecal incontinence, bladder incontinence, urinary frequency, urgency, there is absolutely a place for InterStim right now. It is much better today than it ever was before. But those early days were very, very, very rocky. Again, you want to be bold. Ask questions. I have over on our website a list of questions that you should ask your doctor if your doctor wants to do InterStim. And let me just pull it up here for a moment. And again, for those of you on Facebook, if we go black again, I'm not going to restart it on Facebook. Just come on over to our stream on YouTube and you can watch this on YouTube. But hold on a sec. Let me get my InterStim checklist here. So hold on a sec. One of the most important things to remember with InterStim is, there are a couple important things. Number one, what is the history of your doctor? How many procedures have they done? You do not want to be the first patient who's doing it. You know, it is meticulous surgery near very, very essential nerves. Number two, how much is it going to cost? We had a nurse back east who lived in a small town, and there were 3 urologists in town, and they all pretty much said to her, "We're not going to treat you unless you have InterStim." And they kind of forced her into it. And that's the way she felt. She felt forced into it. But she was also fairly smart. She knew enough about it to start asking questions. So she asked the billing officer or the billing manager in her doctor's office, "Is this covered by my insurance?" She worked for the hospital. They said, "Yes, absolutely. Does not require any written pre-authorization." She then called the hospital billing office where the surgery was going to be done. "Is this covered?" They said, "Absolutely covered. You need no written pre-authorization. Everything is fine." And she still wasn't satisfied. She called the health insurance company directly. "Is this covered by my insurance?" And they said, "Absolutely. There are no problems at all. No written pre-authorization is required." So she agreed to have the surgery. 5 days later, she had a bill for $80,000. $80,000. And it's like, why? Wait. You all said this was covered. How is this not covered? And the mistake she made is she didn't get it in writing. And so that's very important with InterStim, with coverage, is you get your coverage in writing before it's done. It is a major surgical procedure done in an operating room, okay? And they actually garnished her wages as a nurse in that hospital, even though the hospital itself told her it was covered. It's a crime what happened to her. The third thing you got to understand about InterStim is that it's not like you have it and you go. It has to be constantly monitored because devices malfunction. There are thousands of adverse events reported to the FDA database. It's called the MAUDE database that talk about complications patients have had with InterStim. The most common complication is MRSA infection. So you can get a deep tissue MRSA infection in the site of the implantation. And so the big question then is, what if you lose your health insurance? What if you lose your health insurance? Say you have InterStim done while you're using business health insurance and you don't work for that company anymore and you lose that health insurance. Will your urologist still treat you? And in one patient's situation, they refused. So we had a patient who had InterStim. She was fully covered. She lost her job. The device started malfunctioning. She was getting shocked badly. She called the urologist, asked for help. The urologist who implanted the freaking device refused to see her because she couldn't pay for it. And so she called me crying. We got her connected with Medtronic. And she was in Florida. And there was only one doctor in Florida who would take Medicaid. And that was 4 hours away, and they eventually got her to that doctor to deal with this malfunctioning device. And I think that that's disgraceful. And so I think it's very important that you ask that urologist, will you treat me if I lose my insurance? Will you treat? If you will not treat me, where will I go? Because this is an active device in your body. You cannot just walk away from it. And the longer it's inside of you, the more scar tissue that develops, the harder it is to take out, my friends. So you got to be on top of this. And of course, the ultimate challenge with InterStim is that you're not allowed to have certain tests afterwards. Diathermy. Diathermy is heat. You've got metal in your body. If they heat up that metal, it's going to burn the tissue. People have died, not from InterStim diathermy, but from brain. It's bad. Let's just say it's bad. And so if your device isn't functioning anymore, there is a very good case for making sure it is removed. Of course, the problem here is some insurance companies will not pay to have it removed unless it's malfunctioning. And so that's another question to ask your urologist is, okay, if this doesn't work for me, are you going to take this out and who's paying for it? Again, we have urgent PC, which is non-surgical. It's a non-surgical form of neuromodulation, much cheaper. Instead of $80,000, it's like $5,000. And so most patients start with the non-invasive neuromodulation before they go to the surgical neuromodulation. And as I said, I was a patient at UC San Francisco when it was developed, and I was very blessed that I got put into the urgent PC group rather than the InterStim group. And that I got to do it at home. And that ankle stim is what broke me out of a flare. And I'm going to see if I can show you I don't know if you can see it right there. You see that little tiny black mark? That's the tattoo they gave me to show me where to insert the needle when they taught me how to do it at home. And I did it for about a year, and it broke me out of a terrible pain cycle. So don't assume that because it's surgical, it's better. When it's surgical, there are complications. All right. And again, for those of you on Facebook, I don't know why Facebook keeps going off and on. I lost your questions. Feel free to ask your question again. If it goes black on Facebook, just come on over to YouTube and watch it on YouTube, okay? We've been going now for about 2 hours. Who knows? Emily says, can we talk about oxalates, please? Sure. Oxalates are commonly found in certain foods like spinach, chocolate, berries, and Oxalates are crystals. They're sharp crystals. And so the first context for oxalates harming people is in calcium oxalate kidney stones. Oxalates are high in almonds, for example. And so now that almond milk has become very popular, there has been a spike in kidney stones because some people are drinking lots and lots and lots and lots of almond milk, not knowing that they're also consuming lots and lots and lots and lots of oxalates. And all of those oxalates end up being excreted by the kidneys into the urine. But because they're crystals, they build up on each other, right? And then you end up with a calcium oxalate kidney stone. That's context number one. Context number two is with respect to vulvodynia. And that is for women who have vulvodynia, which means that you feel like your vulva has been rubbed by sandpaper. Your vulva can be bright red, very sensitive. Sometimes you can't wear underwear. They discovered years ago, Dr. Clive Solomons discovered that when you reduced oxalates, symptoms got better. And so we now know that patients with vulvodynia are often very sensitive to oxalates. And one of the things they tell every patient with vulvodynia to do is to try to reduce your oxalate load and see if that improves your symptoms. And the same is true for the bladder. That for some people, foods that are high in oxalates also irritate the bladder. So again, you can Google oxalate foods. The book, Taste the Good Life, a cookbook for an IC bladder, all the recipes are categorized with respect to oxalates. Unfortunately, the book is out of print now. But the biggest offenders really are going to be almonds, spinach, chocolate, berries. Let's see, what else? Let's see. It's the Vulvar Pain Foundation, I think, is the one who really made that. Nut butters, beets, rhubarb, spinach. And the big thing is drinking lots of water. You got to drink a lot of water to try to help flush those oxalates out. Because again, those oxalates are in the form of crystals. And anybody who's had chemistry, you know about crystals dissolving in water and all that sort of stuff. Chem labs were fun. I like chemistry lab. Hi, Harriet. Hi, David. Lucy, what antibiotic is okay for UTI that won't make you flare? Well, hun, there's no way to predict that. Ultimately, if you've got an infection, they should do something called antibiotic sensitivity testing, and that is to determine which antibiotic is going to be the most successful at killing your unique infection. Because infections now, especially E. coli infections, have become super adaptive. And there's a lot of drug resistance out there. And so unlike 20, 30 years ago, where they would give you a broad spectrum antibiotic, today we know that that's kind of foolish, that we want that baseline test to, number one, identify the type of bacteria, and number two, see if it's resistant to anything. And that's why that next generation DNA urine testing is so good, because it actually takes it a step further and identifies antibiotic resistant genes in the bacteria, which is fascinating. So your first list is which are the antibiotics that are going to be the best at killing that infection. And then we've got to eyeball that list and see if any of those antibiotics are known for triggering more bladder irritation. And the ones that seem to trigger the most bladder irritation are going to be the augmentins, the super, super strong augmentin-like one. Let me turn on this light here. That's my experience. Anybody here? I mean, if you can list any antibiotics that you had major flares with, that'd be really interesting to see what worked, or better yet, what antibiotics you were able to take that didn't irritate your bladder. The antibiotic that does not normally irritate my bladder is Keflex. Cheryl says, can you remind me again, when I have pain, pressure, and frequency, is that my pelvic floor squeezing my bladder? Would like to know where the pains I feel are coming. I also get the sharp electrical type pain that shoots down the vagina. Girl, if you got the sharp electrical pain, that's a nerve, and that nerve is being compressed by something, usually tight pelvic floor muscles. Pain as your bladder fills with urine that is relieved by urination is from the bladder. Pain that occurs after urination is usually more the pelvic floor. Anytime you got a downward sensation, a pulling sensation, a pushing sensation, if you feel like you're carrying a bowling ball around in your pelvis, that's usually muscular, whereas bladder wall pain tends to be sharp and shrill. It tends to be described as razor blades or glass in the bladder, ground glass in the bladder. And somebody with bladder wall pain or Hunner's lesions, as an example, your day is controlled by the volume of urine. The fuller you are, the worse you feel. When you run to the bathroom, it is to reduce pain. It is to reduce pain. So bladder wall pain, you're very volume dependent. You're very volume based. Volume is going to determine the severity of your symptoms. The fuller you are, the worse you feel. As soon as you pee, you feel better. Pelvic floor pain doesn't have that same volume sensitivity. Pelvic floor pain tends to be steadier. It tends to be achier. It tends to have a burning quality to it, because a muscle that's working hard is a muscle that builds up lactic acid that burns. That burning sensation is usually associated with the pelvic floor. Janie says, my Medtronic rep is horrible. When they put the permanent in, he just said, you got to mess with the settings. I still have urgency frequency. You know, Janie, I got to tell you, this has, to me, been one of the great mysteries of medical devices in healthcare. Why do they allow a company representative, specifically a representative who's probably getting an incentive, into a surgical procedure? And oftentimes you'll find those Medtronic reps in the OR while it's being done. And I'm uncomfortable with that. And the fact that you still have frequency urgency, ultimately in the end, your ability to track your symptoms and keep records is going to be critical as you decide whether you're going to keep it or not. Back in the early days, when InterStim was going through FDA approval, and this is, I almost don't even know if I should say this. Whenever a new therapy is introduced, like DMSO, for example, people have great hopes. They think it's going to be a wonder drug or a wonder device. And there is a lot of excitement among the medical care providers who have helped to discover this new therapy. And there is pressure to produce positive research results. Pressure. And that pressure isn't just felt among the physician. The pressure is felt in the patient community. The patients participating in that study want to support that doctor. In some circumstances, and I'm talking 30 years ago. I'm not talking recent. This is 25 years ago. The doctor who helped to invent InterStim was, his patients either loved him or hated him. Man, if they loved him, he was God to them. If they hated him, he was the devil. There was no middle ground. There were patients who thought he was God's agent on earth, and there were patients who thought he was evil. And it was a really amazing dichotomy to see the absolute division. The patients who did well loved him. The patients who didn't do well hated him. And there was a very clear effort on the part of the patients who loved him to try to encourage other patients to report positive results, even when they were negative. And I know this because I talked with one of those patients who told me that she was pressured by another patient to misreport her data and to say that it helped her more than it did, and that it was common among this initial group of InterStim patients. And so I really question the validity of the data that was presented to the FDA that helped get that first FDA approval. And I do believe that I brought that to the FDA's attention back then. Pretty sure I did. No, I know I did, because I was kind of a thorn in their side about InterStim for a while. And so I presented that information to the FDA and said that I had direct knowledge from a participant that data was being misreported by patients at the urging of other patients. So that's a great tragedy. That's a great tragedy that that happened, because InterStim may have been approved on false data. I can't say for sure. All I can tell you is what I was told, but that is exactly what I was told. And I'm stunned I even remember that. It's a real low moment. And I remember really chewing that patient out over the phone. The greatest gift that you can give the IC patient community is to participate in a clinical trial, because it is only through clinical trials that we're going to know if something works or not. And we need to know, is it good or if it's not good? Because if it's not good, we don't want to harm other people. And the fact that some patients misreported that and put, I remember becoming extremely angry on the phone when I heard that. Joan says, oxybutynin is absolutely the best thing for bladder spasms. That's true. When I had bladder spasms, using oxybutynin, also known as ditropan, was remarkably helpful. However, unfortunately, oxybutynin has now been linked to all the bladder antimuscarinics, the ditropans and detrols. If you take them every day for 3 years or longer, they have determined that may increase your risk of dementia. And so the drug that they're having people look at now, Joan, instead of oxybutynin, is called Mirbitric, because it does not come with the same risk of cognitive decline if it's something that a patient is going to be taking every day. Now, I just took it on an as-needed basis. I only had bladder spasms rarely. The nice thing about it is within 20 minutes, it turned the bladder spasms off. But I would never have taken it every day. But some people do take it every day. As an article on this in our fall magazine, why you should consider Mirbitric instead of ditropan or detrol. Anticholinergic medications often prescribed to IC patients are linked to dementia. Okay, so just fair warning. Brenda says, what do you think of a procedure called celiac plexus block? I had one done a few months ago. It worked great for 24 hours. Then I ended up in the ER on the third day from severe pain, so bad I couldn't even walk. My pain managed doctor is ordering another one because he says sometimes it makes 2 to 3 to feel a full effects. And I don't have any experience with that at all. None. I wish I could give you context. I can't. I just don't know. Hi, Julie. Hello, Gio. Nice to see you guys. We have a celebrity in the room, Dr. Gio Espinosa, who is a fabulous He's the director of integrative urology at NYU. I think you still are, Geo. I don't know if you're still in here or not. He invented the supplement Cysto Renew, and he is known for taking a more holistic approach to the treatment of pelvic pain. Fabulous blog. Seriously, if there's any website aside from my own, of course, that you should sign up for, it's go to drgeo.com. That's drgeo.com, and sign up for his blog, especially if you're a man, because he works with a lot of male issues. I really like getting his newsletters. They're very short but very meaningful newsletters. Carol says, it's snowing here in Boston. What's the best way to treat frequency urgency? I just had lidocaine instilled. It only gave me 2 days of relief. My doctor wants me to go back in 2 weeks. He gave me samples of Myrbetriq. How long does it take to work? Hon, everybody's different. Everybody's different with respect to issues. I mean, I would, so Carol, remember, the first thing we normally want to try to understand is, why is your bladder triggered to the way that it is, that it's giving you frequency urgency? You are an anatomical mystery to be solved. And so generally when a patient has frequency urgency, that means that the alpha afferent nerve in the bladder wall is being irritated in some way. You've got two primary nerve groups in your bladder. You've got alpha afferents, which control frequency urgency. That is a nerve that is very easy to turn on. It's meant to be easy to turn on because that's a nerve that tells you that you need to pee. And then you have the C fiber. The C fiber is the pain nerve. That is a nerve that's very hard to turn on. Usually takes some sort of event to turn that on, some sort of traumatic event. So the first symptom that a patient experiences whenever they have any sort of bladder issue is going to be frequency urgency, because that's the alpha afferent. So what we want to try to figure out is, why is that alpha afferent being triggered? So number one, is it chemical injury? Is there something in your urine that is irritating your bladder and triggering that nerve? Number two, could it be estrogen atrophy? Is your bladder coating diminished because you are older and you don't have as much estrogen, which thus makes your bladder more vulnerable and there's nerves more easily accessible? Number three, could you have infection of some type? Anytime you have infection that's damaging cells, urine then gets into the cell, through the cell, down to the nerves underneath, which is why you would have frequency urgency. Number four, we could look at pelvic floor muscles. Maybe your pelvic floor muscles are tight and making it hard for your bladder to function normally. So it's very hard to talk about the right therapy until we understand your anatomy. If, for example, you have estrogen atrophy, then using something that will give you a bladder coating effect would be beneficial, because you don't have a good bladder coating when you're menopausal. And so something like Bladder Builder, Cysto Renew, Bladder Rest, Cysto Protect would be beneficial. Elmeron does the same thing. It's just that Elmeron's now linked to some of the eye issues. So concept number one would be a bladder coating for that. It would be, I think, important to have a urine testing to make sure nothing else is going on, making sure that you don't have maybe a fungal infection that's triggering your bladder to the degree that it is. What I can tell you with the heparin lidocaine, when you look at the protocol for the rescue installations that's been published, the first published one was published by Dr. Lowell Parsons, and it was the heparin lidocaine. What the protocol was 3 times a week for 2 weeks. So the theory here is, you've got a nerve that's just turned on over and the nerve is overstimulated. And when it's overstimulated, getting it to calm down is hard. So when you turn it off with a medication, you've calmed that nerve for a certain period of time. 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. They think the more that you calm that nerve down, the better. So that original protocol had 6 installations in 2 weeks to just keep slamming that nerve down, calm it down over and over and over again. And then if you got through that, then they had you do it once a week for a month. And if you got through that, then they would have you do it once a month or quarterly or as needed. And then as soon as you provoke your bladder again, they would come back and say, let's do 3 installations in a week. getting insurance to pay for that, as well as having a doctor who can do installations 3 times a week is a little challenging. So more doctors tend to do it once a week. And hold on a sec, I'll be right back. Hold on. All right. Didn't want the piano playing in the background. All right. So, so Carol, if with respect to supplements, you've got the bladder coating. So you got the Sister Renew, the Bladder Builder, the Bladder Rest, the Sister Protect, the Desert Harvest Aloes. If you're going for calming nerves down, then I think doing something like Peora would be really interesting. The challenge is that I don't think anything's going to be overnight like the rescue install. You're really going to have to talk to your doctor about your options, okay? But again, it's amazing. Who was I talking with? I was talking with, oh my God, it was a hysterical conversation in the sense that this was a patient who said they were following the diet. For sure, following the diet. And it's like, well, your symptoms are so intense. You're having such extreme frequency. They were peeing like every 10 minutes. I said, normally what that means is that there's something provoking your bladder on a daily basis. So let's go through the list and let's make sure you're not accidentally shooting yourself in your bladder. So the first thing I said is, are you taking a multivitamin? They go, yeah. I said, why? And they go, because. And I went, you can't take a multivitamin when you've got IC unless it's a low acid multivitamin, or when you've got a bladder wall injury. I said, it's on all the lists. Didn't you see that? And they were like, well, no, I didn't really see that. And they were taking a lot of extraneous vitamins, a lot. I mean, seriously, people, remember, we didn't have vitamins 100 years ago or 150 years ago. Vitamins are a great for-profit industry to make money. And vitamins are in part created because food production removes essential vitamins, right? And so if you eat a lot of fast food, you're not necessarily going to be as healthy as if you eat real food, like real vegetables and real fruit and real grains. And so this person just thought that they needed to take a lot of extra vitamins. And so she was reading off the list to me. It's like, all right, read me the ingredients. Like, vitamin C. Oh my God. She was just killing her bladder with the vitamins. And then I was like, all right, hon, what are you drinking? What do you drink every day? She goes, green tea. And I'm like, oh my God, wait a second. Why are you drinking green tea? Why are you drinking green tea? And she's like, because I like it. And I'm like, didn't you look at the list? And she goes, yeah. And I said, it's on the list for a reason. She's like, why? And I went, because it's very high in acid. She's like, and caffeine. And she's like, oh. I said, girl, that's why you're peeing all the time. You're taking a vitamin and you're drinking green tea all day. She was drinking like 3 to 4 cups of green tea a day. And I said, man, if I was doing that, I'd be peeing every 5 to 10 minutes too. Especially menopausal, don't have a good bladder coating, So, it's Carol, it's always worth going back and looking and just making sure you're not accidentally shooting yourself in your bladder. Like if you're drinking water out of a Brita water filters are actually too good and they produce acid water because they remove too many minerals. So take a look at that. Hi, Paula. Hi, Christine. Hi, Jennifer. Guys, Facebook is being very unpredictable. If it goes dark, again, it's gone dark 3 times now. You come on over to YouTube and you can watch on YouTube also. Julie says, I have bilateral interstims. I want them out. My doctor is missing in action. They need attention. Girl, exactly. Hey, listen, the squeaky wheel gets the grease here. Call Medtronic. Call Medtronic. Call the patient assistance line. Tell them that you're having a problem. Tell them that they need to help you and they need to find a doctor for you. One of the other issues with medical devices that I think is really interesting is ownership. Who owns the device? Do you own it or do they own it? I mean, technically your insurance is paid $70,000, $80,000. You would think that you own it. And I don't have an answer to that question. All I can tell you is some patients having complications want their device tested independently, where doctors will often just send it back to Medtronic. And there's a perception that if you do that, any complications are hidden. Any problems with the device are hidden. And I think that that's a fascinating legal question, is who owns your devices? Brenda, you got to just talk to your doctor and go over your symptoms, my dear. Hi, Pam. Hi, Majid. Ravonda, can food coloring and medications irritate the bladder? Not usually. It would be a very, very, very sensitive patient who would react to food colorings. However, I can think of one off the top of my head who I know reacts to food colorings and medications. Janie says, I can't take any antibiotics with your history of C. diff. Very complicated when you've got C. diff. Now, Deborah says that she reacts to Keflex, where I don't react to Keflex. That shows how individual we are. Cheryl says because she has Hunter's lesion, she cannot let her bladder fill. That's interesting. Ruth says, I don't get the negativity about InterStim and Medtronic reps. Mine's been a godsend. Despite some of the issues I've had, my latest reprogramming has definitely helped my deep sleep. It's not, Ruth, it's not negativity. It's understanding their role and their compensation. So I can see having a surgical rep that's a doctor that is helping to train other doctors and is in the operating room, right? But if a rep is being compensated based upon the number of devices that are being implanted, I think that creates a conflict of interest. And so let me give you a very, very specific example. So I was working with a patient years ago, probably 10 years ago, an InterStim patient. And so they did the trial, went great. She loved it. She said, absolutely, I want this. And her avoiding diarrhea and everything else showed that it was helping her. And so everybody agreed, yes. She had the full implant and she immediately knew that there was a problem. And she told them, literally in the OR and in the recovery room, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. And both the doctor and the InterStim rep ignored her. And they just kind of placated her and said, oh, hon, it's just post-surgical healing. You'll be fine. And this went on for weeks as she got worse and worse and worse and worse. And the Medtronic rep his position was, we just need to reprogram over and over and over. So every week they tried different programming, and here she's getting worse and worse and worse. And when they finally opened her up 3 months later, out came bloody fluid filled with rusty battery fluid. And it was because the unit was broken when they implanted it. And she not only had so rusty battery fluid down by her sacrum, or I don't remember exactly where it was. It was there. And she had gangrene and permanent nerve damage. And I remember when Medtronic flew the rep out to meet me, and we had a very long meeting about patient concerns. One of the things that I said to him was that patients don't feel listened to if they're having a problem. That if a week or 2 weeks after surgery, they let the doctor know something doesn't feel right, they are often ignored. They're often patted on the back and just said, or patted on the head, just honey, you're just post-op healing. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. And weeks become months. And in some of those cases, there were dire complications, just dire complications that they should have been able to catch early, but they discounted the patient. They ignored the patient. And I told them I thought that they needed to create a new patient evaluation tool for post-surgical complications, because there was a disconnect between what the patient was saying and what the doctor and the reps were doing. So I hope that makes sense. And that's, and that happened multiple times. That wasn't just a one-off. This was something that we heard over and over and over in those early days. So, so Julie says, every time I've been in the OR for anything InterStim related, the rep was there. And so I think that creates a conflict of interest, because if a device isn't working, you have a choice. You can remove it or reimplant it. Will that decision be skewed to reimplanting devices, or maybe doing the other side because the InterStim rep is in there? Possibly. I think it could be skewed. Anyway, that's my opinion. I will also say that Medtronic paid the largest fine in US history for paying kickbacks to doctors for doing spinal implant surgery. Victoria says, do you have any information on low-dose naltrexone for IC? I use it and it's been a miracle for me. I've had IC for 20 years and it's the first thing that has had a significant effect. Is at a dose of only 4 milligrams a day. It's something that not a lot of people talk about because it's not on the AUA guidelines for IC as a therapy. But it's certainly been out for several years now. I have not done a story on it recently, and so let me see if I can do a blog on it and or an article in our magazine. And Victoria, maybe what I'll do is I will reach out to you to get your patient story on this. I hope we're friends on Facebook. If we're not, could you friend me? Jill Heidi Osborne. Jill Heidi Osborne, and let's see what we can do. You're not the only one. It's just not commonly used because it's not discussed very often. But I'm glad that it's working for you, hon. I have to refresh myself on the method of action. Hold on. Hold on. I remember why I was so struggling to talk about this. Hold on. Well, there's definitely a lot of stories about it with IC. It's just what is the method of it's used for opioid dependence. So the question is how would that help the bladder? How would that help the nerves in the bladder? That doesn't help me. Oh, okay. So naltrexone binds to opioid receptors. Oh, interesting. So what it does is it temporarily binds to certain types of receptors. And because those receptors are occupied, the body then produces more receptors. And then when the low dose naltrexone wears off, there's a rebound effect, and your body produces more endorphins, which are more pain, which have a pain fighting effect. So it's interesting. So it actually provokes, through a kind of a roundabout way, it provokes the production of your body's natural painkillers, which are called endorphins. All right. I don't, what's funny is it's just among kind of the top doctors that I work with, it just doesn't come up very often, and it should. So I promise you, I'll do a story on it. I'm looking for stories for my winter magazine anyway, because I want to write that this month and release it early to catch up. Pam says, any recommendations for surgical menopause related to vaginal dryness? Girl, I'm there with you. It's brutal. It's brutal. I'm 2.5 years post surgery, and I will tell you the effect on my body of surgical menopause has been staggering, absolutely staggering. Um, um, it's like you age 10 years in 6 months, your skin. So number one, man, you got to do a lot of really, really good skin stuff. But hold on a sec. Let me get something. Okay, I've got a couple of things that you can. Let's see, where is it? Hold on. Hold on. I've got things to demo here. Whoops. Okay, hold on. Where is, first of all, every female watching this and every man watching this who has females in their life, please give them this book for Christmas, the Vagina Bible. I'm giving it to every woman in my family. This, Pam, is going to teach you more about some of the things that happen with menopause and surgical menopause. The advice in this is nothing short of breathtakingly good, by Dr. Jennifer Gunter, the Vagina Bible. Fabulous, fabulous resource. Now, ultimately, you've got to remember that um, your vulva and your vagina, your urethra and your bladder, and your mouth all share one common structure. They are mucous membrane organs. They are meant to be wet. You have saliva in your mouth. Your lips are moist all the time, right? And when you have dry mouth, it hurts, right? And what do? You use chapstick on your lips and or you drink water. When you've got dry lady bits, they hurt. And so your first instinct really should be doing something that will protect a little bit more and lubricate and moisturize. Using a topical estrogen cream, if you are allowed to do that, will help your body produce more mucus naturally, right? But my go-to, so I've got a couple of go-tos. My favorite go-to is so simple. It's just coconut oil. I'm super sensitive. My OBGYN said I had the most sensitive vulva he'd ever seen. I can use this stuff all day, every day, and I've never had a problem with it. It immediately quenches any dryness and any discomfort that I'm feeling. And if it's cold, it's going to be white. And then as soon as you put a little bit on your skin, it immediately, so you can see it immediately gets clear. And then you put it where you're dry. I'm going to put it on my leg right now. Okay. All right. The second thing that calls down there for your lady bits is something called V Magic. And V Magic is, I don't want to open this new one. Let me see. Is this okay? It uses extra virgin olive oil, extra virgin avocado oil, beeswax, and sea buckthorn oil. And this is the bomb also. It's lovely. And I wish I could demonstrate it. I don't know where mine is. Here, let me just see if I can find it one more time. Hold on. No, mine's floating around. Mine's floating around in my bathroom somewhere. But anyway, V Magic. Lots of women use V Magic very, very successfully over the counter. Works like a charm. There's also B Magic, same company. The name of the company is Medicine Mama. So you can use for any skin issue. It's one-in-one healing. And I will say, Julie, that my skin is so freaking sensitive now since that surgery. It's crazy. Like I have to wear my pajamas inside out because the seams drive me crazy. Or you can do Luvina, enhanced personal lubricant. Okay, but honestly, the coconut oil is the bomb. Absolutely the bomb. This is my favorite, emerald coconut oil. It's an organic, pure extra virgin coconut oil, cold pressed. And then also just, to kind of you got to really work with the face and your skin too. Your skin gets very, very dry and very, very painful. As you know, I love CeraVe lotion. And there's a CeraVe lotion for itchy skin that I love. And then for my face, what I use is this. This is wonderful stuff. Love it. So, it's all about moisture. Okay, David says, I took Myrbetriq in August. It made my cystitis so bad it can cause bladder cystitis. Really? David? That's fascinating. You're the first person that I've talked with who has shared that the Myrbetriq made them worse. Debbie says, can Zithromax flare BIC? Yeah, it's an antibiotic. It can flare a BIC for some people. It all just depends upon if you're sensitive or not. There's no way to tell in advance. You just got to figure it out. You got to try it and see what happens. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Gwen. It won't take your discount online. So how to get the discount? I really want to do the Peora. You got to do believe all in capital letters. If that doesn't work, you can just call us tomorrow and we'll give it to you. The sale's all day tomorrow also. So you can just call it in. We're also kind of retroactively going back and trying to apply the discount as needed. But you're welcome to call me after. You're welcome to call tomorrow. Not a problem at all. And we'll make sure you get your discount. Michelle says, I'm confused as to what supplements I should take, Peora versus bladder rest for bladder builder. I've never tried any of them. So number one, it depends upon what we're trying to treat here. If you, for example, have estrogen atrophy, then we know you're going to want to do something that has a bladder coating effect. So that's going to be bladder rest or bladder builder because they both use chondroitin and hyaluronate. And they just put the glucosamine back in bladder rest. So bladder rest got slightly reformulated to put glucosamine back in there. So bladder rest and bladder builder both have a bladder coating effect, but bladder builder has a lot more in it. It's got probiotics, it's got some collagen in it for your bladder wall, and it's got PEA in it for pain relief. Whereas bladder rest is really just a simple formula as a bladder coating. So ultimately for patients, it kind of comes down to how sensitive you are. If you're somebody who flares with probiotics anyway, I would not do the bladder builder. I would do the bladder rest. Peora is really just for pain reduction. It does not have any bladder coating ingredients in it. So if you're already taking another supplement that you love, like Sister Protec or Desert Harvest Aloe, you can just add the Peora on top of that. If money is an issue and you're trying to save money, then you could do bladder builder, and that has all of the effects in one. But ultimately it just comes down to your sensitivity. And I'm sensitive. I don't like taking a lot of extra supplements. I'm very, very sensitive. So I prefer very simple formulas myself. And so for me, I would do the Peora first, and then I would do the bladder rest. But that's just me. Others of you're bold and you can do lots of stuff and you don't have problems, where I'm sensitive and I tend to be much more cautious. Paula says, my Urogyne is ordering your DNA test. Am I familiar with it? Yeah, absolutely. It's called the Next Generation Urine Test. I built a whole website on it last year, Paula, called bladderhealth.org, bladderhealth.org. Gwen says, I'm confused. My urologist says you can't really see IC. It's just more symptoms. If that's true, then what about the Hunter's lesions? You're able to see that. Well, he's right and he's wrong. He's right in the sense that, in the typical IC patient, you can't see much. You can feel it, but you might not be able to see it. Like my bladder, when they looked in my bladder, is entirely normal. There's nothing wrong with it. And the reason why there's nothing wrong with it is because I don't have Hunter's lesions and I don't have bladder wall issues. I have pelvic floor issues, and you cannot see the pelvic floor. They're inside your body, and you cannot see a pudendal nerve entrapment. And so it is a diagnosis of exclusion where they run through and ultimately this is where your ability to communicate about your symptoms is going to directly determine how you're treated, because you've got to be able to walk into the doctor's office and describe exactly what you're feeling. You can't just say, I've got pain down there. You've got to be able to say, I have pain in this location that feels like this. It's electrical, it's sharp, it's dull, it's achy. There's a pulling sensation or a pushing sensation, or it's heavy, or I feel like I have a bowling ball around in my belly. Your ability to talk about what makes it worse. Is it better when you stand, when you sit, when you eat certain things? How does it change throughout the day? What makes you feel better? And ultimately, the devil's in the details, in the sense that it's often this little minor symptom which solves which makes a diagnosis, like the random pain shooting down your leg once every 2 weeks, or if your toe starts throbbing, which would be a sign of a pudendal nerve entrapment or pudendal neuralgia, as compared to once a month you get blood in your urine, which would then have us ask, okay, what's bleeding in your bladder? And it's probably a Hunner's lesion. So, you've got to be able to, what do I say to every patient? You don't walk in and say, I've got IC. You walk in and you talk about your symptoms. Doctor, I have pain an inch above my pubic hair to my left hip bone. It vibrates every now and then. I get I get an electrical sensation every now and then. Can you please help me understand what that is? That's the way. We need to get them focused on studying your anatomy. And part of that examination is a hands-on examination of your pelvic floor. They have to be able to touch your pelvic floor either through your vagina or, for men, through your rectum, and see if your muscles are tight. And they can feel that. And if it's tight, they would normally send you to a physical therapist to try to figure that out a little bit more. And I just want to say, guys, I mean, I was working with a patient again last week who she had been treated for IC. Let's see. I talked to so many. I get it. I want to get it right. She'd been treated for IC with bladder therapies for years and years and years. Nothing ever worked for her. And when they went back into her history, or when she called me and we were going back into her history, it's like, okay, when did this start and what happened? You remember anything happening? And it was a patient I was talking to yesterday who I think 3 years ago had a really bad fall on her tailbone, and she fell down a couple of stairs on her tailbone, which is a classic injury that we see with pelvic floor dysfunction. Okay, why is my neck itchy? Anything there? Oh, the joys of being a redhead. One sec. So these are a couple of other things. These are a couple of other things that are kind of my go-tos. Anacream is an over-the-counter lidocaine cream, and that you can use on hemorrhoids and things like that, but you can use it on bites and mosquitoes. So if your doctor's not giving you a lidocaine jelly, you can get this over the counter. It's like $35, but I gotta tell you, it's good stuff. So I'm gonna put that. I got a little tiny bump right there, probably just from something. So we'll put a little bit of that there. And then this is my new favorite. I love CeraVe lotion, which comes, it has a blue accent color, but this is CeraVe Itch Relief moisturizing cream. And I gotta say, this is the bomb. I don't know if you can see that. See, it's just a white cream. I use this all over my shoulders and stuff. And then I have no lid for this. There are moments when using a steroid cream is a must, and that would be a clobetasol cream, which is a very strong steroid. But again, for people like me, where you really react to bites and things like that, I mean, every day, my skin, like right now, I feel my right forearm and I feel my neck and I feel my inner right leg. And I can't turn it off. It just is what it is. My nervous system gets worked up and then my skin is prickly for a couple of months until everything calms down again. It's crazy. Annie says, I'm on blood thinners, can't do heparin in my hydrodistension. My IC specialist said he still believes in DMSO and lidocaine is a way to go. Having your procedure first week of January. I guess what I would just say is that, while the FDA approved dosage is a 50% dosage of DMSO, also known as Rimso 50, that dosage has been linked to bladder spasms. So most doctors do a cocktail, a DMSO cocktail, where they've got DMSO, maybe a lidocaine, maybe Solu-Cortef or another cortisone cream, maybe an antibiotic. So it'd be interesting to see what his formula is. See, it's gone now. I don't feel it now, just with that Anna cream. Hello, Debbie. Hi, Catherine. Nicole says, I had my annual checkup with my urologist. He took the typical urine test, but my insurance has denied my claim, saying it's not necessary. I plan on calling them tomorrow to fight this. Do you have any advice of what I could say to get them to cover it? I was shocked. My urologist did tests for everything under the sun in a culture, but this test had never been denied before. It was my first year with Cigna, and I'm switching again next year due to other issues. I think that's baffling. That's baffling. I mean, if you already have a pre-existing diagnosis of interstitial cystitis and or any bladder symptoms, and if you presented at the doctor with bladder symptoms, I mean, that's standard of care. That's absolutely standard of care to do that. I mean, that's baffling. All right. Sorry. My lights are being weird. Is that better? Yeah, it's better. It's all rainy outside, guys. So you can see out the window over here that it's rainy. Fire season is over. Yeah. I can now sleep and not worry about evacuating. Christina is talking about Interstim in Canada. Yeah, Christina, you're right. I gotta say, Canada is kind of the playground for Medtronic. It's really rather baffling to me that the insurance would pay for surgery that could cost anywhere, from $50,000 up to $100,000, rather than providing physical therapy that might cost $10,000 in the end. And that shows the influence of the big pharma and medical devices on the government, and it's questionable. Jessica was the youngest person in Canada to ever get Interstim in 2011. Do you still have it, Jessica? Gwen, when we're done with the support group meeting, I'm happy to take your. You can call me right away, and I can take your order. It's not a problem. Or you can just call tomorrow. Let me test it. You know what? Hold on a sec. Let me test it. So I'm going to put a Peora in my cart. And I'm going to add that to my cart. I'm going to check out. I'm going to enter the promo code BELIEVE. No, you're right. It's not working. Okay, hold on. What the hell? Why isn't that working? Because it's supposed to expire on the 2nd. Well, it's not deactivated. One-time use, you're only allowed to use it one time. So if you've already used it once, that's why you're probably not being able to use it again. But again, if you call, just call and we'll take care of it, okay? It's not a problem. I'm happy to give it to you again. So the only restriction on it is one-time use. You know what? I'm going to take that off. All right, so I've taken that off. So try it again and see if it happens. Jessica says, I still have pelvic pain and burning, but my frequency decreased 75 to 80% since the implant. I do have to take regular pain medicine to manage the pain. The frequency was the worst for me, though. Yeah, and that's why it was originally FDA approved, was for the frequency. So that's great that it's helping with your frequency. I think it'd be really interesting, since you're still struggling with pain, to maybe try the Peora too, and see if the Peora helps with the pain, because the research study showed that it did. I see now that. Yeah. Let me try this again. Hold on. Okay, so Gwen, open up a private browser. Open up an incognito browser and place your order that way, and it should work. It just worked for me that way, okay? So I think it was blocking you because you've already ordered, or it thinks you've ordered, maybe because of your IP address. So I don't mechanically understand how it knows. Anyway, I took that off, and so there shouldn't be any restriction now if you've already ordered. So give it a try again, hun. Sorry, life in technology age is not fun. I do bladders, man. You know, I can do bladder stuff, but programming drives me crazy. Christine says, sometimes when I'm laying down, I feel a vibration above my pubic bone. I'm thinking that's pudendal nerve. It is, hun. I have the same thing. That's definitely a nerve compression. And probably from very, very tight glute muscles. Alana says, I thought patients with IC all or most have blood in their urine when testing is done. We often have microscopic blood in our urine, and that's not necessarily from a Hunner's lesion. That's just what happens when you have an injury and your body sends white blood cells to the area to check out the injury. Your body will release the white blood cells by opening capillaries, which also ends up releasing red blood cells into your urine. So microscopic blood is not a problem. It's the visible blood. If somebody passes blood clots once a month, That's like, all right, what the hell's bleeding? Let's take a look. That's not normal. But microscopic blood is pretty consistent. Gwen says, the same doctor said that Hunter's lesions would be the best IC because he said you can fix that. So when they laser them, the IC symptoms go away. I'm like you, I'm hypersensitive to drugs. Well, yeah, but pelvic floor dysfunction can go away too with proper pelvic floor therapy. Deborah saying, Deborah, is she going to have a live chat next Sunday? I hope to. I want to try to have one every weekend since this is the holidays. I've been doing them. I think I've done them every week now for the last 5 weeks. I started that after the evacuation. Aaron, why do IBS and IC go hand in hand, or how it seems? Well, number one, again, it gets back down to the cause or trigger. We know that the nerves in the bladder and the nerves in the bowel are shared at the spinal cord. So what they've done is they put radioactive tracers in the nerves of the bladder, different radioactive tracers in the nerves of the bowel, and they watch where they go. And what they found is that they ended up in the same nerve bundle at the spinal cord, which ended up showing both tracers. And so there's something called neural crosstalk. And that is where nerves communicate with each other. So we now know that when the bladder is irritated, the bowel can show signs of irritation. When the bowel is irritated, the bladder can show signs of irritation. So concept number one is neural crosstalk. Concept number two is something called central sensitization. And that is where the nerves in your body in general are just hypersensitive. They have a lower action potential. I am a central sensitization patient, which is why my skin bugs me so much. And normal people without sensitive nerves, you don't have you wouldn't react to a seam under your arm. But because my nerves are so freaking sensitive, I had to change the top I was going to wear today to something that didn't have an itchy seam because it was driving me crazy. So you can have central sensitization where your nerves are more sensitive in your bladder and your nerves are more sensitive in the bowel. And some people believe that that's a connecting factor between IC and IBS also. And then, of course, we have to throw in the pelvic floor. If your pelvic floor muscles are tight, that also has the potential of triggering bladder symptoms and bowel symptoms. But I think the central sensitization is really the big driving factor. Aaron, I asked my team to send out the Piora last week, and they should have. Let me check stamps.com and let's see if there's a package on the way to you. Hold on. Because normally they would do a label in stamps.com. So hold on, let me log in. Let's see here. And while that's searching, let me just look at my sent mail. I mean, I think I did that on on the 25th. I sent them an email to do it, and so it should have gone out on the 26th. Stamps.com is loading, so it's slow. All right, we'll come back to that. Hi, Christine. Christine said, I received the Piora in the mail the other day. I didn't know that there was a discount. I ordered 3 bottles. Christine, I announced a sale in our newsletter that I sent out on Wednesday. So if you ordered before that, it was complex. I don't know how to answer that question. It's kind of like me ordering this And a week later, I think I paid $99 for it. It was $45. But it had been like 10 days and I couldn't really go back. But if you want to call me, we can talk about it. Maybe I can give you a discount on another order. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Christine, just call me. Next time you want to order something, just call me personally, remind me of this, and I'll give you a discount on your next order. Okay. Or what I can do is I can send you our magazine for free. If you want to get a copy of the magazine or something like that, I'll make it right with you. Okay. Hello, Cher. David, where can I get Anna cream? I got mine at my local pharmacy. It's expensive. It's like $35, but it definitely, or $25. Gwen says, do you have a sample or you could play on some CD or your site? Next week would be great if you or someone could go over books and CDs. I know a lot of it. I know that's a lot of work. I actually did put a sample. I did put a page up from the magazine into the description for it. So I did do that. All right. And people can order samples for 99 cents, I think, of a past issue. So anyway, YouTube, I do not mean to be neglecting you. Donna said she had an issue with the promo code. Donna, try it again. I think I fixed it. Lisa says, is it possible to announce the live chats in advance? Or are they ad hoc? No, the live chats are always scheduled for 12:30 Pacific time on the first and the third Sunday of every month. And then, but I'm almost doing every Sunday right now. But a lot of times I don't get started for 5 or 10 minutes while I'm setting up stuff. If you sign up, if all you need to do is subscribe to our Facebook page, or I've subscribed to our YouTube page, and you get an automatic email saying when we've gone live. Lisa asked, how do I register for the newsletter? Just go on over to our website, icnetwork.org, and a pop-up window should come up within 30 seconds or a minute, and you just put your email address in here, or you go up to news in the pull-down menu, and it'll take you to our e-newsletter, and you can just sign up there. I'm not saving copies of the newsletter anymore because we had so many newsletters. I didn't want to do that. It's too much work. David says you can't find it through Rite Aid. I got mine through Kaiser. All right, guys. You have homework. Oh, you know what? We need to do a giveaway. Don't you think we need to do a giveaway? Yeah, we need to do a giveaway. And you know what? You know what? I have got look what I've got. 2, 3, 4. I got magazines ready for labels to send to people who want magazines. So let's do it this. If you would like a copy of our latest magazine, send me your address to my email address, icnetwork@mac.com. icnetwork@mac, M as in Mary, A as in Apple, C as in Charlie.com. Send me your mailing address, and I will send out 10 or 20. If you want a magazine, I'm happy to send it to you for free as my gift to you, because I want you to have a great holiday. And maybe, just maybe, that big article on confusable conditions will help you find the answer to your pelvic pain. So if you would like a magazine, icnetwork@mac.com. Okay? How's that sound? Everybody wins, as Oprah says. Everybody wins. I am happy for everybody to win. All right. So now we're in the Chris. So listen, it's the holidays. Man, it's the holidays, December 1st. And if you're new, if this is your first holiday with IC, I want you to be gentle with yourself. I don't want you to carry any shame or blame. You have done absolutely wrong, nothing wrong. This is not your fault. You don't asking to be with this. It is pissing you off. You are frustrated, you are angry, you are in pain. You've got to be gentle. You got to be gentle with yourself. You got to pace yourself. Don't try to run a marathon on a broken bladder. Please, please do not try to run a marathon on a broken bladder or broken pelvic floor muscles. If you need to shop on Amazon. Go local. If you're worried about traveling, bring the holidays to your place. If you are worried about going out and eating at a party or a New Year's party or anything like that, I'll tell you, New Year's is tricky when you've got a sensitive bladder and you're alcohol sensitive. I had, I remember it. I was at the Lisa Hemingway organic shop, and they were, and it was New Year's Eve, and they were giving little cups of champagne, and I had like 2 swallows. Holy hell, did I have a flare from that. Champagnes are rough. Champagnes are rough on the bladder. You would do better with a hard apple cider. But we have articles on our website about alcohols. Some people can handle alcohol, some people can't. If you've got pelvic floor dysfunction, a little bit of alcohol to relax those muscles might work. If you've got bladder wall driven, Hunner's lesions, a little bit of alcohol might hurt the hell and give you a terrible holiday. And I don't want that to happen. So, but anyway, the point here is that you've got to be gentle to yourself. You've got to pace yourself. If you can't do something this year, it's okay to say no, because next year could be a new year. You could be feeling much better next year. If you need to stay home, it's okay to stay home. If you're worried about food and going and eating, make your own food and bring it with you. I have a whole bunch of stuff on managing holidays over on our website. I know that that's very simplistic. I think one of the hardest part of the holidays is dealing with family members who are just kind of rude. It's like, you again? You're not over this? You haven't had your cranberry juice? And that's why live events like these are really helpful. The one I did last week, I started with holiday tips. I would encourage you to watch that one, and watch that with any family members who don't quite get it. Okay? They don't quite get it. Sometimes if they hear it from somebody else, they might get it. And I'm happy to do that for you. It is what it is. People get hurt all the time. And I think what's so fascinating here is that if you had a family member who was hit by a car out in front of your house, you would be running out the door. You would be in the street, doing everything you could, holding their hand, holding them together. You'd be on the phone to 911. You'd be on the ambulance with them. You would be at the hospital every moment that you could be. Then you would bring them home and love on them like you've never loved on anybody before, including getting up and changing the channel of the TV and making their favorite food, because you know that when somebody's hurt, they deserve love. And yet what's so weird is that we often don't think we're worthy of the same love. And I think for guys, you're taught to be a man, to buck up, that you're supposed to fix it yourself. And so men, I think, are treated very, very unfriendly, in an unfriendly way by family members and friends who might not be sympathetic. And yet, and we women, we often think that we're the least important person in the family and that we don't deserve that love. And I'm just calling bullshit right now on both of those situations. If you're hurt and you're in pain, you deserve love. You deserve kindness. You deserve compassion. You deserve understanding. You deserve the support of your family members and friends to help you through this time. It would be nice if they went with you to the doctor. It would be nice if they helped you clean your house if you were in too much pain to clean your house, even once. It would be nice to get that kind of help, but you can't get it unless you ask for it. And it's important that you ask. If you need help, ask for it. And if they're dicks and they say no, okay, they're dicks. But if there's a chance that somebody can help you, please open the door and let them in and let them help you, right? Okay, so you've got homework. Here's your homework. Homework number 1 is for 15 minutes a day, I need you to do something for your body, something for your bladder or your pelvic floor. Whether it's making an icy friendly meal like I made last night, I made meatloaf and baked potatoes, or getting down on the floor and doing your pelvic floor work, which I need to do, which I have not done in a month because of all the damn fires. And I can tell my muscles are getting weaker. I have got to start doing that again. Okay, so 15 minutes a day, do something for your body, okay, that you know will be directly beneficial to your pelvic pain. Number 2, I need you to do 15 minutes for your spirit and your soul. You need that comfort. And so whether it is talking with a good friend, every time I do these, my next phone call 5 minutes later is always to my best friend on Sundays, because I need that support, and she needs that support. You deserve support. So whether it's talking to a family friend or a personal friend, or talking to a therapist, or going to church, or listening to Joel Osteen, every day, 15 minutes, do something that will comfort your spirit. And then I need you to do 15 minutes for your noggin here. I need you to do 15 minutes to improve your knowledge of IC every day, every single day. Like, what's the last article you read? I double dog dare you. I double dog dare you in chat right now. Write down the last article you read. Have you read an article on IC in the last week? Have you? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, Erin made homemade turkey soup. So yeah, coming to these, knowing that I'm going to give you articles is good, but it's not good enough. You got to read about it too. And then last but not least, for 15 minutes, I need you to do something that will make you laugh like you've never laughed before, that will make you pee your pants laugh so hard, right? You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Laughter helps your brain modulate pain. If your pain is accompanied by tears, your brain is going to intensify that pain. If your pain is accompanied by laughter, your brain is going to minimize that pain. And so you got to laugh every day. You've got to laugh every single day. And thankfully, we've got YouTube that will help you do that. So watch video, the Facebook video feed's hysterical. So get off the support groups, get off all that stuff and other stuff, and watch something funny. Okay, and play some music. Open the drapes. Start a fire in your fireplace. Go read your favorite book over again, sitting in front of your fireplace. Get something nice, hot and cozy to read at the same time. Get your cat or your dog, have them lay in your lap. Grab your heating pad. Nest, and bring joy to your daily life. Right? Right. Last call for questions, my friends. Last call for questions. I'm going to cue up a song. I listen to the same songs all over again. Last call for questions. Last call for questions. Anybody have any more last calls until our next support group meeting? Who knows when it can be? I might do one at midnight on Wednesday. We'll see. Anything? Let's see. How can I do this? All right, hold on a sec. I am going to unplug something. All right. I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to. You question my devotion. Everybody needs somebody, and you got me. You know that I know that you know that I'll be there for the highs and the lows. Give you mine if your heart gets broke. By your side when you're all alone, I will be there. When you are down on your luck, you know I swim and you got to drown. 2 a.m. I'ma pick you up. I will be there.
I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there for you. I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there for you. When you're down on your luck, no right home and you got too drunk. I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there for you. Yeah. When your heart could use a break, and it's too broken to be open.
This is Walk Off the Earth. So the name of the song is I'll Be There.
Everybody needs somebody, and you got me. You know that I know that you know that I'll be there for the highs and lows. Give you mine if your heart gets broke. By your side when you're all alone, I will be there. When you're down and down on your luck, no right home when you got too drunk. 2 a.m. I'ma pick you up. I will be there. I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there for
Right,
you.
Your little song for me. Walk Off the Earth. I'll be there.
When you're down on your luck, no right home when you got too drunk. I'll be there, I'll be there, I'll be there for you. I'll be there for the highs and the lows. Give you mine when your heart gets broke. By your side when you're all
My
alone.
face
I will be there. When you're down on your luck, give your all, but it's
All right, you two.
take my hand and I'll pick you up. I will be there. I will be there. I'll be there. I'll be there for you.